We're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
F it. We're doing it live. All right. Hello, Eternal Life fans. I don't know why I just did that.
Doing like a little Seek Heil. This channel is now demonetized. You're a
Yeah.
Nazi.
I just
No, no.
I just pulled a PewDiePie, I think. So anyways, you guys, we're going to be talking about AI. I have Alex here from Transhumania. We're going over some articles. Alex sent me a bunch of articles and we're going to go over them and talk about this stuff. Here we go. What should we start with, Alex?
Shit, hang on. We're gonna go over them.
We're going to go over them. So, yeah, a bunch of stuff. A little bit about like futuristic Hensha stuff, but mostly we're going to be into like AI. And we actually just interviewed Peter Voss, who is like a big expert in AI, and he has an AI company creating artificial general intelligence. So, how'd you think that interview went, Alex? You still hear me? Alex? Hello?
Hey, something's wrong with my audio. Okay, it works now.
Oh, did you hear me? Do you hear me
Yeah,
still?
no, I was on. Everything was on mute for a second. I think it was a bad connection.
Oh, okay, we're good. So what should we start off with? Do you have any introduction comments and things you want to say?
Yeah. We could just jump right in. So,
All right, what you have a favorite article we should start with? Favorite topic?
sure. Let's start with your AI, your article on the AI gods.
Oh, sure.
I thought it was pretty interesting thesis you had there, and you wrote this way back in like 2012, 2013. It's way ahead of its time.
Yep. So yeah, I wrote this article. Basically, my synopsis of this article, I can't even remember. It's been a long time, but I think I was just talking about the chance. What I basically talk about a lot, which is like, okay, the possibility that we've already created an artificial intelligence that has trapped us in a matrix, and that basically that's a reason why we need to be living as though maybe our actions will be tested and judged by this AI hypothetical god, you could call it, that is potentially like judging our behaviors and like making a list, naughty or nice list on like who potentially gets to live forever, that type of thing. Yeah, did you have any comments on this? You read the whole thing?
You also had this idea in another article of yours about like the metadata being trapped in there, like in the ether, and then these future AI gods will sort of harvest the metadata and like recursively, like bootstrap into being smart enough to go back and like retroactively see what you did in the past and then use that to judge you in the future.
Yeah,
I think that's scary.
That was my technological karma article. That was basically like, yeah, that was like basically taking it's another version of almost a godlike scenario where instead of the god being an artificial intelligence, the god could be just a future humanity, a future transhumanist society who somehow gets the records of what we did in the past. It's basically the social credit system on steroids. We might already be living in the social credit system because essentially we might not be able to hide our past and what everything we did because they might have some kind of weird ability to just look at everything we've done, like it's all on record for some weird reason. I don't know how they would be able to do that. Some people say like crystals store information like around them. Like, have you ever heard that?
You're talking about like this is gonna get into like very new agey territory, but oh shit, we got some person here in the comment. Eternal Life Fan was right. He predicted this shit last year. Oh yeah, the technological karma. Yeah, you predicted the social credit system like years before it showed up.
Alrighty, let's see.
So,
I mean, you basically believe the same stuff. Like, you believe that, I mean, what do you believe as far as a karmic-like system in the universe? Do you think that all our actions are being measured in some way, and there's a vetting process for who gets to live forever, who doesn't, this sort of thing?
I believe in something sort of like that. So in Buddhist theology, you have this idea called the mirror of Indra. So the mirror of Indra is, the jewel of Indra, or well, either or crown of Indra. It has many names, but it's essentially an interconnected network of particles, and each particle is a joule that reflects all the other particles. So whenever one particle changes, all the other particles change with it. And in that sense, I think this is like the metaphysics of karma. And if you have this like this goes back to like this sounds like wooey new age bullshit, but when you go into like quantum mechanics research, they're talking a lot about like this principle of a quantum entanglement, whereby if you change one particle, you change the other. But we're just talking about two particles here. There's a chance more than one particle could be entangled. Like all particles at the Big Bang were entangled. So in some sense, every particle in the universe is part of the mirror of Indra, and when one of them changes, all the others reflect that. So it goes to show that like no person is an island, and like all our actions are interconnected. That sounds very like spiritual, but I do believe in some kind of this karmic architecture to the universe, so to speak.
Absolutely. So Van Halen was actually saying, no, he wasn't talking about me predicting with the technological karma. It was actually, he was talking about the virus. Because I made this video called something like how to survive the pandemic or something. And I made that like a year ago, like literally before the whole thing. And I was like showing, okay, Bill Gates is predicting some crazy virus could start killing tons of people. But I don't think it's as bad as that yet, but it's pretty bad. I kind of predicted it. And now it's the year of death. What's ironic is like I've been calling this the year of death ever since Mr. Peanut died. Ever since Mr. Peanut died, I'm like, this is the year of death. And now look, it's like Corona happened like a month after that.
Mr. Peanut was the foreshadowing to the year of the plague.
Yeah, it was like the.
But I mean, it's not like there weren't things already wrong with the society. In some sense, like I try to see the good in the bad. There's always a little bit of sunshine in the clouds. There's always a little bit. You'll always find like a flower growing in the shit. I always try to focus on that flower. And I think this past world, honestly, I'm not going to miss it that much, especially like the toxic relations between like gender dynamics and whatnot. Like the fact that like just the simple act of forming a relationship is so goddamn fucking overcomplicated nowadays that you can't simply just get along with your community anymore, whether it's like a friendly neighborhood relationship or a friendship or an actual like romantic relationship.
Yeah, and you know what I don't like is the weird psychology of it, like where I think like as soon as you like show too much interest or whatever, or like it's just like it turns them off, and like this weird thing, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like if you're too nice. You literally have to be worried about being too nice in a relationship. Like, how weird is that, right? Like, if I'm too nice, it's like showing I'm too invested or something, or I care too much. It's just weird.
I think
it's weird.
I think I might have an explanation for that. So like how last time we talked about the different like hierarchies for reproduction. Mm-hmm. A lot of people use this term like you're either an alpha or a beta. I think that's stupid. Like alpha is like the guys who have gotten laid, and betas are virgins. I don't think it works like that. I think it works like this. So alpha, we call alpha. It's not a person. It's a strategy. So this is the strategy is I'm going to be as genetically fit as possible, and then like pussy will just rain down on me. So this is like you go to the gym, you work out, you do trend cycles, which is steroids, and I would not recommend abusing these kinds of drugs, but this is essentially all I'm going to do is I'm going to try and build my aesthetic, and that's my reproduction strategy. And I think like maybe 5% of males use this reproduction strategy. And then here's what I call a beta. A beta is just a person which does not have the genetic resources to attract people. So instead they just use their cash and their status, maybe their friendship circles, maybe they own a house or something like that. It's kind of like you see it in nature all the time. Like penguins are betas. They have like my pile of rocks is bigger than the other guy's pile of rocks. Come to my pile of rocks. So that's what I think a beta is. I think maybe like maybe 60% of the population, the male population, is betas. It's not like an insult when I call you a beta. I think like most people are betas. And then this is why I think we get to the reproduction strategy, and that's the gamma strategy. And this is why I think it's kind of like women are repulsed by it, because the gamma strategy is I can't be genetically superior like the alpha, but I'm also like stupid and broke and I can't afford anything and I have no status. So I'm just going to be as nice as possible. And what that signals to women is like, oh, you're using the gamma strategy. You're a gamma. You're a nice guy. You're an incel. So I think that's kind of like been uh like adapted into our culture. People have finally picked up on that, and maybe that's why being a nice guy is a bad thing. There's a fourth strategy. I like to call it the Omega, and some people conflate it with MGTOW, but I think it's more serious than that. And this strategy is basically where you give up human relationships and you try to like form a like it's just become so hard with like the divorce courts and the fucking Belle Delphine's bathwater and all this bullshit that you just give up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna fuck robots. Like I'm gonna program them to be convincing enough to be like a human, but I'm still gonna fuck robots. And then maybe like if I really want to like reproduce, I'll use like a surrogate mother or an artificial or like artificial wombs or something like that. That's what I call the Omega. So that's like the I'm not playing the game strategy.
Hmm.
I don't know if
There's
I'm gonna use the Omega strategy, but I might. Who knows?
That's a
If
scary
things get bad enough.
strategy as too, because if you start effing robots, those robots could kill you. They could turn against you like Ex Machina. Da da da.
I think we're starting to see some elements of the Omega strategy like played out in our society. Pull up that Melody, the hentai cam girl.
All right.
So for those of you who don't know, like the Chatterbait, it's like this website where you e-girls stream and they do like fucking I don't know, shit that gets a rise out of you. But the e-girls have actually gotten really mad at this new like artificial intelligence, like hentai cam girl, who's taking away all their revenue, and like all the feminists want her banned. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah, this is an example of people starting to trade out like real women for simulacra of
All
women.
right.
That
I
they
saw that. I saw that they were also doing that with singers. So they have these shows now where the singer is just an AI.
Oh
It's just a
yeah.
cartoon character projected on the screen, and everyone's like rocking out to this cartoon girl.
Have you heard of Hatsune Miku? I think
Probably it's
that's
probably the
what
main one,
you're
right?
talking
That's probably
about.
the one I'm referring to because I've seen footage of it.
Yeah, so Melody is basically the Hatsune Miku for like cam girls. It's just a like a 3D hentai cam girl. Pull it up. How do you spell Hatsune Miku? Hatsune. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'll look it up. What's it? How do you spell it? Oh,
Uh,
someone in the chat saying how to spell
H.
it.
Okay, thank you, person in the chat.
Oh no, there's no one in the chat saying how to spell it.
Hat. Okay, Hatsune.
H A what?
HatsunE,
S U N
and then
E
Miku, Miku.
I K U. All right, let's see. Oh yeah. I saw this girl. I even made an Instagram story about this girl. I was watching
Yeah,
her.
she's been around for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
just this like entertainment purposes ever since like you had that Tupac hologram in Coachella, the Japanese just took it overboard. But yeah, you're now seeing this with like the cam girls and whatnot, and like feminists are actually really pissed because like this cuts into sex worker profits, so you got to ban it unless it's a person because they don't like that automation is now spreading to like the sex work industry.
This is the
That's
future.
like
This is
really
so much better though. Like, I mean, not this. I don't think this is better than real singers, obviously. But I'm saying, what's better is that sex work is taken over by robots because like that totally is destroying women. Like any women who engages in that sex worker business, they get destroyed mentally.
that is actually like a very heated debate nowadays, the sex work debate.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are saying is wasn't the point of communism originally to like liberate us from work, but now you see like a lot of people on the left being pro sex work. That's like a very controversial topic nowadays.
Oh yes, yeah, they're all extreme pro sex work, pro sexual liberation stuff. You have another article here called "Bodybuilder Proposes to Sex Doll After
Okay,
Getting
guys,
Plastic Surgery."
let me show you this. I'm gonna show you the virgin simp versus the Chad waifu lifu. Okay, y'all ready? I'm gonna hijack the screen. How do I hijack the screen? Share screen.
Yeah, go for it.
Fuck. Hang on a sec. No, pull up the article before that in the chat. The one before the the bodybuilder.
Is it the I'm dating four guys?
That's it. That's it. So for those of you who don't believe how bad it's getting, I'm going to tell you how bad it's getting. So this chick right here is dating four simps. So what is she, like a 1 or a 2? These guys, like, I mean, they're not like alpha material, but like they're probably like 5s and 6s, and they trade down. That's how bad like the gender ratios are in some cities, that you gotta like team up with 4 other guys just to have like a regular relationship. So
Holy moly. So each of these guys can't get a girl on their own, so they have to team up. and
yeah,
oh my gosh.
This is peak simp right here. Holy shit.
Oh no.
I mean, just wait till she gets divorced, because once she gets divorced, she's gonna have 4 different guys paying her alimony. She's living the fucking life, dude. Yeah, so that's the virgin simp. Now you guys want to see the Chad waifu lifu? Let's pull up the Chad waifu lifu. Alrighty,
which one is that? Chad waifu lifu.
So bodybuilder proposes to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's it. To doll after getting it plastic surgery. So this guy's a bodybuilder named like Yuri Tolochoko or something like that, and he's a total Chad. Like scroll down, look at some of these pictures. Look at that guy. That's not like some guy you'd have like the stereotypical depiction of MGTOW as like an obese, like neck-bearded fedora gamer in his basement.
Right.
This guy's an actual Chad. He's in movies, and like go to the very bottom. Like there's 5 pictures there. Scroll through the pictures. So he's got pictures.
Good point. Yeah, he's not an incel. He's not an incel looking like person.
Yeah, so he's got pictures of other women like with his sex bot.
Wow. So he just prefers this girl to another guy. I mean to another woman. When
the divorce laws get that fucking bad, what are you gonna do? You're gonna start doing cost benefit analysis and be like, oh hey, maybe it's not worth it to like sort of risk all this money I made as an actor and a bodybuilder, only to get divorced later.
Well, he could still just have like a wife that's not on paper.
Yeah, I mean, go to picture 2 out of 5. Like he's still pulling pussy. I mean, it's not like he's some kind of incel Elliot Rodger type supreme gentleman.
What, are all these other 4 girls in here all his like?
Yeah, that's his fucking harem, dude. He's still getting pussy. Even when he's getting pussy rained down on him, he knows that the waifu, the AI, the robot is a better option.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so his robot, I think it has one of those chatbot programs. I don't know if it's like and what is it called? Bina 7048 or something like that, the one Bobby mentioned. How they start to have like their own chatbot programs, and they've started putting those inside the sex dolls, so you can actually talk to them like as if you were having a real conversation with a real person. It's kind of creepy, but it's kind of sad that we've like it's come down to that.
Yeah, what happened, man? What happened to like the days of what do you call it? Jane Eyre. Now that's the best. That's like the best time period as far as like relationships and like how it actually worked. It seems better than what we have today.
I think I do have an explanation for that. So I think we've all heard the terms first wave, second wave, and third wave feminism, right?
Yeah.
So little funny thing, if you look back at the history of these movements, the first wave feminism, that was between 1918 and like 1935, right? That was first wave feminism. So that's when women wanted to like get the right to vote, the suffragettes holding the sign like votes for women. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And second wave feminism was from like the 60s and 50s to like say the 70s when we really started getting heated with the Soviet Union again. And then third wave feminism was sort of like after the Berlin Wall collapsed to the modern day. So you notice something funny here? It's broken up by wars, right? So whenever there's a war, feminists shut up and like just sit back and don't do anything because they need the men to go fight the wars. Once the war is over, they go right back to being feminists, and you get another wave of feminism. So it's not like there's a first wave feminism is good or second wave feminism was less good or whatever. People try to like kind of say, oh, first wave feminism was better than third wave feminism. I don't think so. I think it's just one feminism, and it's broken up by wars.
Wow, I never realized that before. That it's broken up by wars.
Yeah, so like a lot of the alt-right, like tradcuck people, they're saying like we need another war so feminism could be like abolished, but it won't be abolished. It'll just stall until the war is over.
Because they're gonna be like, and now the feminism, I mean, is like being a proud slut They
I
have
mean,
slut walks. That's what they
maybe
like. This is
maybe the
sick.
coronavirus will be your World War III. So I mean, like the first and second waves were broken up by World War II. The second and third wave was broken up by the Cold War, and maybe there'll be like a third uh, war or something, some kind of global crisis during the coronavirus. And once again, you'll see them all just be like, "Hey, ladies, shut up, let them fight the wars," and then we'll go back to doing whatever we were doing. So yeah, that's the Virgin Simp versus the Chad Waifu Laifu.
That's a
I
good
don't know.
point. So the
These are your
coronavirus.
options. Like, I mean, if you were in like Gen X or like a boomer, you still had a chance at like a decent relationship. But things have gotten so bad that these are literally your two only options, either the simp or the Chad Waifu Laifu.
Or I could
So
just wait. Just wait. I say wait it out. That's my
get
strategy.
it out.
Just wait it out, and eventually, just wait it out. Be patient, and eventually, someone will come along that's not crazy and that's just normal and good, right? Won't that
Yeah.
happen eventually if you wait long enough?
Do you think so? Do you think technology will eventually will have the technology to kind of like just edit out the hypergamy instinct from your genes, or to maybe like plug some electrodes into your hypothalamus and then manipulate your hormonal profile so we're not as like sexually overcharged or sexually dimorphic? Do you think that'll be possible one day, or is that
Well,
wishful thinking?
that probably would happen eventually, but that's not. I'm talking about just like waiting long enough, and I don't know. Hopefully, you get lucky and find someone that is compatible with you. I guess. I mean, just find someone that's logical and smart, and it hasn't been corrupted by the feminism, I guess. But
I mean, it
the
works.
chances are, like, if you wait too long, probably most of the women will have already slept around, at least to some extent, and picked up STDs and
Oh shit.
the bunch. There's a bunch of problems, right, that arise from waiting too long to find someone. But you also can't like force something. You can't go out there and like I'm gonna find someone because then it's like you end up finding someone that's wrong for you.
Yeah, I mean, also like the mindset you're taking is that like, oh, I'm incomplete and I need someone to complete me,
Yeah.
and then people will pick up on that. Like they'll fucking like they can
Yeah.
smell your fear if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
You have to like sort of have your shit together and be ready to accept failure. You have to like have this Buddhist mindset of like letting go of your ego and your desires and whatnot,
Yeah.
non-attachment, and then ironically by pursuing non-attachment you will get people to come to you. I think that's from my personal experience, but
Right. And the
there's still
the
that doesn't mean there aren't problems with society.
right, like in the manosphere world where they're talking about dating advice, the one thing they say is like you have to be willing to walk away. Like make it known and clear that you can leave and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean
Which in a weird way is that's like contradiction because if you've really fallen in love with someone, it's like no, you wouldn't. It would not make sense that you'd be willing to walk away because if you found someone so special, like you want that to work so bad, so you don't want to walk away. You're so resistant and repellent to the idea of like leaving that relationship. Like that's always been instilled into me is like it's contradiction to what I was raised with because I'm like I was raised with the idea of like okay, you find one person and be with them forever, so you take it super seriously. And when you're
yeah.
taking a relationship that seriously, the last thing you'd be willing to do is walk away. It's like you want to just be so attached.
I think attachment. I don't think attachment is necessarily a bad thing. Once like you've, it just shouldn't be the first thing. It shouldn't. Relation attachment should develop organically as you form a relationship with the person. It shouldn't be like the initial mindset of I pick a person to get attached to. You become attached to them naturally because you spend so much time together. You don't
Mm-hmm.
spend time together because you want to get attached. I think that's maybe what I'm getting at. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we had the whole I'm not really part of this what you could call manosphere, but we had that discussion with Bobby, and Bobby was, and he was like recommending me the game by Neil Strauss. But I mean, like the PUAs, like pickup artists, I talked about like how they were kind of a scam. Essentially, they set up a system whereby every time you fail, every time you fail, they always find a way to blame the man who failed in the relationship. So even if you're like a fucking Johnny Depp or Mark Ruffalo, the guy who plays the Avenger, the Green Arrow, or whatever the fuck his name is, even these like fancy Hollywood celebrities, even they get divorced and their wife takes like all their shit. And the PUAs always blame the guy. It's like, oh, bro, you just didn't do your cock push you didn't do your cock push-ups. You didn't do your tactical pheromone soap. You didn't do your you didn't maintain frame, bro. So I mean, and when they do succeed, like the 1 out of 100 times, where it's probably just based on random chance, they'll be like, "Oh, see, my tactics worked. They only failed 99% of the time, but I'm going to blame those times on you." So I don't know. It's you have to recognize that PUA at the end of the day is still a business, and they have to sell their books and they have to sell their conferences, and they're not going to do that unless they find a
Right.
way to like
Dude,
scam it out of you.
do you want to know where it gets really hard? Okay, so
There.
this number one rule that they talk about in the dating advice, whatever you go on the PUA people, and people are talking about this stuff. They say it's okay. You have to be willing to walk away. Like this, I'm not making this up. Because that's like the number one thing, right? You have to project that energy that you don't need this, you don't need her, and you can just leave right anytime, right? That's the energy they want you to project in the
Yeah.
relationship, right? That's the frame they want you to set. Like you don't have any, you could just leave and go find someone else. Like that's the energy they want you to project as the man, right? But that is so like if your goal is to be with one person forever and like lose your virginity to one girl forever and then never have another girl ever, like in the rest of eternity, think about how hard that becomes because if once you've lost your virginity to the girl, then you're kind of you feel like you want to be with that only that girl forever because then if you were to ever leave, then you lose your whole you're contaminated and you don't so and then you don't want to make it work enough again. You don't want to have to attach to someone else. You don't want to have to fall in love with someone else. You want it to just work with one person. So it doesn't work. What they're telling you, the idea of like, oh, non-attachment, just be ready to find or leave her and find the next girl. It does not work if you're trying to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish with just be with one girl forever. It doesn't work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's a certain degree of truth to that. I mean, especially when you look at like the kind of pressure you have to be in a relationship, like pressure from friends and family. There's like most people don't know it, but there's like huge pressure for a guy to be in a relationship once you hit like your late 20s or 30s or whatever, to the point where people might even like start go to article number 2. So this guy, 28-year-old male, started using AI technology to create like a deep fake of his girlfriend.
Um, I'm looking for this article here. Let's see here.
Right after Melody number 2.
Oh yeah, I found it. I-28M created a deepfake girl, and now my parents think we're getting married.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it's come to right now. This is the kind of extent you have to go to like fight off these social pressures that really don't make sense anymore. Because originally, Rowan and I discussed this theory we have that marriage evolved as a paternity test for men, right? So, what the trade-off is that the man gets to control the female's sexuality and ensure his kids are actually his kids, and in exchange, the man will provide like security to the woman, like he'll like give her food and like a place to stay and whatnot. So that's the dynamic we've had for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Is marriage is essentially a paternity test because the more time like the woman hangs around you, the more likely that your kids are actually yours, and that's the only reason you'll invest in your kids if they're actually yours. If you're not, like, there's a word called cuck that's used for people who, it's often a slur, but I think there is a very big biological aversion to cucks, like to being a person who's not raising their own kids. It like makes no sense evolutionarily speaking, because those people will get bred out of the gene pool by the people who do spread themselves around, you know. So what we've gone to now was like in the 60s you had the morning after pill, and you had like Roe versus Wade and like abortion, and all this started getting legalized. So you no longer need this paternity test. You no longer need marriage to ensure your kids are actually yours. You can just get a DNA test to be like, oh yeah, okay, my kids are actually mine with my DNA test. So what purpose would marriage serve? We'll have to find like a replacement for that social function, because we evolved to have like relationships to some degree. We'll need to find some kind of social institution that would replace marriage.
What do you think about this as a solution? Okay, so how about this?
Okay.
Find someone, and before you get married, literally date them for like 10 years.
10
like,
years?
10 years minimum. You have to know them so well. Like, you have to be able to trust them on such a deep level. You guys talk everything out. You talk all your philosophy out. You talk every freaking facet of their morality, their ideals, everything to the minutia details, and then You're convinced. You find someone. Okay, I'm convinced this person is so moral they'll never cheat on me. I'm convinced this person is so moral they'll never divorce me and try to divorce rape me and all this bull crap that they're all concerned about in the whole MGTOW movement. You just talk it out. Just talk it out like adults. Like, we're gonna have a contract. We're gonna be in a relationship together forever, for all eternity. Is this cool? Like, you down with this? Like, you knew me for 10 years. Like, I'm not gonna change that much. You're gonna be, it's like, talk it out. All right, maybe we can extend it further. I mean, if we're living forever, 100 years is like a day in eternity. You date them for 100 years. How's that? You date them for 100 years first before you marry them. Maybe.
I think that's a convincing argument for normal people, but the MGTOW are going to need like a little more convincing because they're like super. Most of them are composed of like middle-aged men who got really fucked in the divorce court, and all these millennials are talking to the boomers online, and they're telling them about how not to get married because like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Essentially, like if your problem is that you're a virgin and you're not getting enough sex or whatever, if the problem is that you can't get sex on demand, marriage won't fix that problem, because usually like a year after marriage, you'll never have sex again. It's like, oh, I'm too tired, or like I don't want to fuck. So and so essentially, like, a lot of people get trapped in sexless marriages. So essentially, like, marriage isn't a way out of that problem. But here's how you can convince the MGTOWs, right? So if you do, let's say, like you said, let's say if you do find the unicorn, you need a backup plan. You need a plan B. Have a passport, have money, have a foreign account, like a Swiss bank account, something like that. Put enough money in there so you can live a comfortable life offshore. And like, if you ever get hit with the divorce papers, and it'll come out of nowhere one day, like, your wife will just hit you with the divorce papers. What you got to do is you have to play along, because if you say, no, fuck this, I'm leaving the country, what she's going to do is she's going to go to the cops and be like, oh, domestic violence, oh, he beat me or whatever, and the cops have to believe her because, like, they have to take her word for it, and they'll just arrest you and put you in a cell, and now you can't leave the country. What you got to do is be like, oh, okay, I accept your decision, and I accept the decision to pay alimony. And then the next day, she comes home from work or whatever, or she comes home from the divorce court, and the house is fucking empty. You have left the country. You took a one-way fucking trip to Southeast Asia, fucking Thailand, Philippines, Switzerland, wherever the fuck your money is. So, like I said, just have a bank account, foreign bank account, passport, and like some money on hand to buy the plane ticket and leave. And once you have that, you at least have some security that even if your unicorn turns out to not be a unicorn, you will still come out on top.
This is gonna be kind of weird, but I feel like this is literally what I feel like. Just in the same way, I don't want to have a cryonics plan because I don't want to have this weird backup, because it's like almost like you're training yourself to fail. You're kind of telling yourself, I might fail, so I'm gonna have this backup. In the same way, like, I don't want to have a backup of relationship potential failure. I know that sounds like totally crazy, like, to think, oh, I don't like thinking about all this stuff. Like,
you think it's like an admission of defeat?
It's like trying to think about how you're gonna how you're gonna handle a divorce or whatever. It's like, for me, it's like thinking about, oh, how am I gonna like get this cryonics thing to work? It's like, no, I'm not. I think, and here's the thing, like, if I were to be married, if they're gonna divorce me, let them divorce rape me, because it's them failing their test. I view it that way. Like, if they're gonna marry me and then do this and then divorce me for some bad reason, because if I'm moral on my side, if I held up my end of the commitment, if I held up my end of the bargain, they're still gonna divorce me. If that happens, and they start taking all my money or whatever, using the government and being evil, fine, let them do it, because they're just they're showing their true colors. It's more opportunity for them to show their true colors and fail their karmic life test and potentially be judged. It's like giving if there was a hypothetical God, the God sees that, it's like that information could be used, so they get their karma, is what I'm saying. They get their karma.
I mean, if we're living in if the simulation hypothesis is true, and we're living in this universe where the programmers of the universe are just these scientists who are training 7 billion AIs on this simulated planet, of course they're going to pick the AIs that are nice and reciprocative, like they reciprocate. They're not going to pick the AIs that are like fucking solipsistic and selfish. So, I mean, your idea of this cosmic karma, maybe it is true. Maybe at the end of the fucking program, all the AIs that are deemed not useful to the programmers will get terminated, and the ones that are useful and reciprocative and helpful will be carry on to the next life or whatever. I guess that's kind of like a reawakening of Christianity, like a repurposing of the theology. But yeah, that's
Plus,
I
let's
think
face
that's an
it. Let's
interesting
face it.
point
We don't have to, I
about
mean,
it.
if we do cure aging, right? If the divorce laws will change eventually, they're not gonna have it so it's like they're sucking money off you for like thousands of years. Like that's just not gonna happen. Like things will change. They have to, right? So we have to live in that mindset that that if the worst happens and they somehow divorce you, like I don't know,
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
like think about this money thing. You can get money again. Let's say they take $50 million, like Jeff Bezos' wife or whatever. She
yeah,
like
she's gonna be the new richest person on the
yeah,
planet
she
after
takes like
divorce.
half of his money, become like what a crappy deal, right? But she didn't earn any of that money. Um, oh well, he can make his money again. He'll be rich again. She has to live. She has to live with herself, knowing that she got all that money. It wasn't even she didn't earn it. She just divorce raped her husband. It's just like she has to live with that. That
Yeah,
sucks. That sucks. Even just having to live with that is that's a karmic system in itself. Even if there's no God, it's like you have to live. Whoever divorce rapes you, whatever, they have to live with themselves. And that's gonna impede their own ability to love themselves. That's their karma.
I suppose. Yeah, that's a convincing way to put it. I mean, if you're still not convinced by Rowan, I guess just go Chad Waifu Laifu and get a doll with an AI or sex bot, whatever. But yeah, we've talked enough about like automation for like sex work. You want to talk about like automation for like burger flippers? Because I think that's going to have like an even bigger impact on the economy.
Yes,
Yeah,
automation
we could pull
for
up that article about the burger bot, the burger flipper. What's its name?
robot
Lippy?
burger robot. By the way, I'm probably making myself sound like such a good target. If there's some like girl out there that wants to like divorce rape you, they're like, "Ooh, I found the guy."
Damn, fucking okay. Don't take any. Don't go on any Tinder dates this weekend.
Oh
Uh,
boy. That's another benefit of being poor. Hey, if you're poor, you can't be divorce raped.
yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
Jesus
so
said, "Blessed are the poor," because the
mhm.
poor can't be divorce raped. Makes sense. Um,
Yeah, so I mean, we got robots, so AI is replacing fast food workers now, and apparently they can pay the cost of maintaining this robot is only like $3 an hour. So now it's actually more beneficial to just hire the robot than to hire the actual workers. And I think this has like big implications for society once like if UBI never goes into effect. Even if UBI does go into effect, you're gonna have the governments like maybe they're not going to adjust it for inflation the way it is, and your cost of living will keep rising, but your UBI won't. And the government will just be like, "I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further." And they're just gonna keep altering the deal until they say, "You know what? We don't need these people. Let's just fucking mow them down with like private drone armies or robot armies or whatever." You think that's
right.
like Elysium, that movie Elysium? Do you think it's ever gonna come to fruition, so to speak?
I I do, but I think that the way I really think it's going to go down is that the rich people aren't going to be the evil people.
You think it'll be the poor people?
No, the rich people will be like it'll be people who are good and humanitarians. I think those are the people that are really going to win out. Like people like Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, he'll be
Yeah.
in the Elysium. So if you right now, even if it's a poor person, like if you're not super rich, I think that the rich people will be humanitarian enough, and they'll try to find those unicorn poor people to invite into their system and
Okay.
give them the goods and the welfare or whatever the basic needs. Maybe not to be as rich as them, but like some kind of I don't know universal basic income or something enough resources to get by in a happy life where you have the anti-aging technology. I don't feel like all the poor people will be deprived of that. So it's
Yeah,
like
maybe not.
I feel like there'll be some kind of vetting system where the rich people like offer their technology to the poor people. So it's our job, if you're poor, if you can't get rich, at least be a good poor person where it's like you could be a unicorn poor person that gets vetted into the system, into the Elysium system that the rich elites are creating.
I guess that kind of makes sense. I just don't know, like,
It goes right back to technological karma.
yeah,
It's
the
like
Mirror of Indra.
be on the good side of the karma so that if the elites are watching and if they have the control to pick who gets into that system. They're going to want you. They're going to look at your social credit score and they're going to, hey, he was pretty good. We're not worried about him. We're not worried about inviting him into our little cool closed off system with our cool technology and everything. Because think about it.
Yeah.
These rich people, they might be more concerned with a person's morality and ethics than how much money they have. To get into their society, money might become as abundant as just like money's not the thing that determines your value in that society because it's
Do you think it'll be your job that determines your value in the future?
Partly, it could be your ability to not be replaceable by a robot. Like if you're just doing things that could be replaceable by a robot, then it's like you're useless. So they want creative people who are like, I don't know, a good singer, a good artist, musician, whatever.
So essentially, yeah, like the article we got here about like the burger flipper bots, like robots are always polite to the customer. They never show up late for work. They don't need sexual harassment training. They never file like discrimination cases or sexual assault cases, and that already makes them like a net financial benefit over like these minimum wage workers. So you got to do something where not selling your labor to a capitalist for work. Do something where you're paid for like not for your time, but for the work you produce, because that way you'll figure out how to produce that work more efficiently, and eventually you can gain passive income, right? So I mean, like same with like driving, like it's astounding like how fast these truck drivers, like truckers, are being replaced. Like Andrew Yang, the guy who almost not even almost he got fucking killed in the presidential run. But like it's the same principle. Like human drivers are prone to stress, they're prone to tiredness, they get distracted, and they're limited by like a maximum number of hours they can work per day. But a robot is not. An autonomous vehicle like Uber or Lyft, they're developing like self-driving cars.
Right.
Those need to sleep. And like I think it's like 3.5 million trucking jobs in the U.S. are like already fucking endangered. And Australia has like a fleet of I don't know if you've seen the video, but like a fleet of like autonomous trucks. And they work with the miners in the outback, so the mining trucks drive themselves. And I think like Singapore, the Singapore, like the island that's a city, it has like an entire fleet of self-driving taxis because they've got limited space and it's actually illegal for you to have a car. You have to get like a permit to have a car in Singapore. So they're just gonna say fuck that, and we're gonna have like self-driving taxis. I think that's pretty cool, but I mean, the people who were driving those taxis are gonna get fucked because. These robots, these are employees. They never make a mistake. They never take a break. They work 24/7. You don't need pensions, no sick days, no insurance, no workers' comp, no 401k plans, no pregnancy, no leave. They work twice as fast. It's fucking insane how much economic damage this is going to do to us.
Yes. Yeah, wow. That's definitely that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, did you read that that famous like study from 2015? Like that's what started the whole automation debate. It was like a study by I think like The Economist or something. It was on The Economist.
I don't think I ever read it.
Half of all American jobs are going to disappear within the next decade, and we're already like halfway. If it was published in 2015, we're already halfway through to 2025. So if imagine getting like losing 50% of the jobs. Like the Great Depression was only 25 unemployment. Like all those lines with like the depressed people lining up for food, that was just 25% unemployment. Once we get to 50% unemployment, then the shit's gonna hit the fan. And that's why you gotta prep. That's why you gotta figure out like what kind of work you're good at, what kind of work you have to like use your brain for, and find something that AI can't do. Do you think there's a couple of jobs, specific jobs we can name for the audience?
I guess just like an AI will be able to be an actor, won't they? They can do that. They could probably replace singing too. They could AI will probably be able to create.
Don't be a prostitute or an e-girl, because those are the first fucking people getting replaced.
First things, right? Yeah.
Like all simps care about is just jerking off. Like they don't care if they're jerking off to a robot or a person. The simps will simp. So
maybe the only thing that's truly not replaceable by a robot is morality, true morality, because an AI, they might be moral, but they don't have the free will. Oh, but you don't believe in free will. So morality only becomes a real issue. It only becomes a true value if you think you have free will. Because I was thinking like, okay, an AI could be moral, but their morality isn't real because they don't have the free will.
Well, I think there's a difference between free choice and free will. I do believe in free choice, but not in free will. And the difference has to do with what's going on in your brain versus what's going on in your like outer nervous system. Like, I mean, you should still hold people responsible for their choices. Like most people think what determinism means is that like, oh, if everything's predetermined, you can do what you want. I'm like, no, because we're predetermined to want morality. It's kind of a
Right.
paradox in that sense. But yeah, what I'm trying, you know what would be fucking funny though? If like, you know how philosophy is like the most useless degree in university? There's all these jokes about like
Mm-hmm.
philosophers not getting jobs and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be funny if like 100 years from now, philosophy was the only degree that got you paid because that's the fucking one thing AI can't do is philosophy.
Oh yeah, by creating new philosophies that are actually good. That could be the thing. You're right.
Yeah, there's like in terms of there's an economist. His name's Colin Clark. Have you ever heard of the five sector model? So this guy, Colin Clark, he came up with this way to classify the economy based on like the type of jobs we do and how easily like replaceable it is. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so there's what we call like there's five sectors, right? There's what we call the primary sector. So the primary sector is raw materials. Think of like farmers in Iowa with their tractors. Think of like lumberjacks in the forest with their saws and shit. Think of like fishermen. Like this is just you extracting raw materials. Maybe like miners. That's a primary sector as well. These are going to be the first things fucking automated because you're seeing in Australia with the fucking mining trucks, like all that shit. And then the second thing, the secondary sector, this is manufacturing. So this is you're at the factory in a fucking assembly line and you're doing whatever. You're putting a fucking part onto a computer, pass it along. This is the second thing that's going to get automated, and we're already seeing that like to this day. Like look at all these auto plants that are being automated.
Yep.
Some people are saying it's like not that the immigrants are now less dangerous than the AIs because these AIs are going to take so many manufacturing jobs. Like the Mexicans won't even be able to compete with the AI. So I
Do you
that's the
think
second.
that like to me this whole automation thing it feels like eventually it's going to create a world of hyperabundance, like hyper abundance, where what if one day money loses its value, where it's like
Do you
everyone
think that
like
if
what
there's
if
hyperabundance,
yeah, what if
if
there's
there's
like a world of
hyperabundance,
like crazy hyperabundance, like where it's
oh,
like what happens then, what becomes the true value, you know?
I think. Do you think like open borders will be possible in that kind of world? Because like the people who come in for welfare, that welfare will no longer be paid by American workers. It'll be paid by the robots. So we won't give a shit. Like the Republicans will stop giving a shit and just open the borders. I mean that's possible. But I don't think we'll. I like your idea of hyperabundance, but I don't think we're there yet. Because like these are just the first two
Oh yeah,
sectors.
we're
What
not
about the other
there,
three
we're not
sectors?
even close
I think
there.
I think only once we automate all five sectors will we get there. But I think we're about halfway there because sector three, so the third sector, you got the primary sector, which is raw materials. Secondary sector is manufacturing. The tertiary sector is services. So this article about the robot burger flippers that I showed you, um, that's already assigned the tertiary sector, the service sector getting like automated. So the service sector, that's like the people who help you at the Apple store buy shit, the barista at Starbucks making your fucking coffee. That's the tertiary sector. And once that's gone, all that's going to be left is the quaternary sector and the what's it called? Fucking quintessential quinary sector. So like the four and five. So the quaternary sector, that's like scientific research, academic professorships, like corporate strategy, financial planning,
Mm-hmm.
information technology. But here's the kicker. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually fucking accounting AIs now. So they're automating accounting. They're automating fucking lawyers, paralegals. Those are being automated too. Um,
uh,
fucking like financial planning, that's also being automated. So the AI has already started to creep from the tertiary sector into the quaternary sector and started automating those. And I think for our viewers, for you guys listening, I think where you want to go is the quinary sector, so sector five, because AI is not fucking touching this shit. The quinary sector is innovators, entrepreneurs, investors, government officials, like shit that's really hard to fucking automate.
Are you sure the AI won't take the place of government officials? Some people want to
maybe,
have
maybe.
politicians that are. Some people want the whole world to be ruled by an artificial intelligence, like a one world artificial intelligent dictator.
Yeah. So there's a guy. He's at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. His name's Dr. Yuval Noah Harari, and he has this thesis about a religion called dataism, an idea called the algocracy. So the algocracy is when you take all the AIs on the planet and you pool their data, you pool the metadata, and then you create like a computer that makes political decisions for us. So algocracy, like rule by algorithms. So it's essentially an AI dictator, an AI monarchist. And like Harari He seems like kind of like liberal, but he's actually very anti-liberal. He hates liberalism, and he wants like this dictatorship of robots, and people call him like dystopian for that. But I think that it is totally possible that one day we'll have like super intelligences that can start creeping into the quinary sector and taking those jobs. But I think like we have like till the end of the century to worry about that.
Hmm. What if, like, okay, in a world of super hyper abundance,
Yeah.
what if the true value then becomes your social credit score, right?
That's interesting because we're seeing
Because
the social credit.
people the people of the future, the society of the future will be able to create robots,
Yeah.
but the rarity will still be able to be like a real person with a high social credit score, an impervious social credit score. Because what if they're really concerned about the safety of people? What if that becomes, because in a world where we've cured aging, where you're not going to die from aging, you want to, but you're still concerned about your life. You're still concerned about murder. You're still
Coronavirus.
concerned about people. People become the danger. People
Yeah.
with free will who can mess up your plans to live forever. Those people become the danger.
The
So
people
what?
taking all the fucking toilet paper. Sorry.
So what if the true value then becomes your social credit score, as far as like being a clean record? They can't get any dirt on you. So imagine a social credit score system in the future where it's like they look at your everything you've ever done and they're like, we can't get any dirt on this guy. Like, what the heck? What if that becomes the true value? Because then what if there's certain elites, they're not satisfied with hanging around a bunch of robots because they feel like these people are soulless droids. I'm bored of them. If I could just have a real person to be my friend, just to hang around a real person, forget it, or, or even like someone who wants to have a romantic relationship and they don't want to have a freaking sex bot. They want to have a real person. So then what becomes the true value in that society is having the perfect social credit score. Because then
Yeah.
what's the person, let's say this person who wants to find their eternal love, they're going to be like, I don't want a freaking sex bot. I just wish I had a good person with a perfect social credit score. I don't have to worry about this person. I can expect this person to be moral because they have the perfect track record. Or to someone who wants to have a friend. So that becomes a super value, just having that perfect social credit score, perfect morality,
I think that's totally possible.
practically perfect, like Mary Poppins. If you could just be that and hold on to that forever, you automatically raise your value. You automatically raise your value regardless of how much money you've had. Maybe you didn't focus on money. Maybe you didn't focus on that at all. You didn't know how to do it or whatever. You sucked at it or you just are a failure at that. But at least you had the perfect social credit score. You're automatically, in the future, I think your value will just crazy skyrocket. Really?
Yeah, no, I think it's this idea of karma being the primary resource. I think that's totally fucking possible. So what I'm worried about though is I've said a lot of edgy shit, like edgy politically. So I don't know what like the AI's politics will be, and hopefully they don't fucking like get punished too hard. I don't think we should stratify people into caste systems based on the social credit system. Like you've seen the Black Mirror episode Nosedive. So that's the example of a caste system where it's your caste is based on like how many social credit points you had. So let's say you use the word tranny on Twitter back in 2007. Are you permanently stuck in the lower caste, or will you ever have a chance to recover? That's an interesting question we should take if like social credit karma is going to be like the default system of value in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Once AI seeps into the quaternary sector and we all just become fucking cattle to it, I don't know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's another interesting book. It's called The Second Machine Age: Work, Progress, and Prosperity in the Time of Brilliant Technologies, and it's by two economists, Eric Brynjolfsson and Andrew McGaffey, and like they talk about this a lot. Like this, what is the future of value gonna be once all this automation takes place? What's the future of how is the worth of a person gonna be determined once they no longer contribute to the world with their labor because the AI can do everything better than we can.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting question.
So I
Seriously.
mean, there's this idea called the Luddite fallacy that says the belief in new technology leads to greater unemployment. But we talked to Brent, and he said maybe the AI this intelligence will create not only new jobs, but new kinds of skills we can train ourselves. Maybe skills we don't see nowadays. Like, I mean, if you look back in 2000, if I went back and told myself as a kid, one day in the future, there's going to be people called YouTubers and live streamers, and they're essentially going to make their whole career by just showing up on the camera and talking. I'd laugh. I would have fucking laughed. I'd be like, no fucking way. And like, lo and behold, I think one of the biggest YouTubers, Joe Rogan, he basically built his whole career off of just like FM radio, like live FM radio, listened to by fucking tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how like new automation creates new skills. So maybe I might be wrong about the whole all five sectors being replaced. Maybe we'll create a sixth sector. Who knows? Because I mean, if you look at history in the fucking like Egyptian age, there was no secondary sector. There was just a primary sector. There was fucking farming, and that's it. Once you got to like the 1700s, like the Industrial Revolution, then you had a secondary sector, but you had like barely any services because the cities only had like there was almost no cities in the world. And it was only once you got into the 20th century that you had a tertiary sector pop up and a quaternary sector. But in the past, these sectors were very, very, very fucking tiny, and they existed only in like the richest, most influential cities. But now they're fucking everywhere, you know. So I mean, like just the progress of history creates new sectors in the economy. So maybe there'll be a fucking hexiary sector.
And so one of the sectors of the future could be the social credit karmic systems sector.
Maybe.
Dude, yeah, what if things get so crazy that it gets flipped over? Like, let's say if you're too rich, if there ever was a point in history, like let's say Jeff Bezos, for instance. Yeah. What if in the social credit karmic system, that system gets so advanced in the future society that they look back on people's wealth and that gets judged as a net negative for their social credit system, karmic system, shit. Because they're like, that person was so wealthy. How dare they? There was people needing help. There was people who needed to be fed. There was people had all these health problems. And look at this guy had tons of mansions. And what the heck was he doing with his money? What a greedy, selfish person. And then his social credit system score plummets. And he's like on the low totem pole in that future society. Even if he's living forever, if he's still there, he's just on the low he's just low because of how he spent his money, how rich he was at some point. So it's almost a danger to get too rich, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Like to be sitting on all this wealth when there's other people who are suffering. We have to think of how this will be measured in a future society with hyperabundance that might look back on everything, look back on what we've done and how everything, and be like, whoa, that person was like freaking selfish. Like, what the hell? And then everything could be flipped over. Like our current society doesn't do that. It kind of exalts hyper rich people and like they become celebrity status, and it's like, whoa, look at this rich person, how cool, like they did it, look at them, capitalism, like they're a winner. But a future society could have a different morality, right?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Pierre Bourdieu? So Pierre Bourdieu was well, this goes back to like my social sociology class and like critical theory. But there was a French theorist by the name of Pierre Bourdieu, and he said there's more kinds of capital than just economic capital. He said there's 4 categories. There's economic capital, there's also cultural capital, and then there's social capital and symbolic capital. For example, like symbolic capital is like a corporate brand. So that's a new kind of way to make money is by just having that brand. That's why there's IP, there's intellectual property and such. Mm-hmm. Then cultural capital is like, let's say you go to Harvard, right? That's cultural capital. You learn all these things at Harvard and you're able to purchase the 4th kind of capital, which is social capital. Like you make connections and then maybe people will be the future of capital. Maybe like what you were saying, like your social credit system, maybe we might see like a hexiary sector of the economy, a hexiary sector whereby your value is determined by how well you do socially, how well you reciprocate socially, and maybe only social capital will be of value in the future.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, right now there is social capital right now, but you can actually use other kinds of capital to purchase it. For example, if I'm really nice to people with my money, I'm throwing dollars in the club, that's an example of using economic capital to purchase social capital. And maybe me going to university is an example of using economic capital to purchase cultural capital or social capital, because I can make friends at university, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was Bourdieu who showed that this was all interconnected. And I think capitalism isn't as simple as we make it out to be.
Absolutely.
You know? Food for thought.
Yeah, and here's another thing I just thought came to me. So these different systems of value could also be different. There might be hidden systems of value because in our society we have this different things that give someone value, but there could be like let's say there could be a secret society already living, and they have a different set of what gives people value. So in our society, like being really rich might give you a lot of value or whatever, or being a celebrity, being famous, being all these things. But in a secret society, if there's a secret society that is categorizing people based on their value, they might value something completely different. They might value, right? So that already might be going on. What I'm talking about that might happen in the future with the social credit score system of maybe ethics become the top, the top value, a moral person, whatever, the perfect track record. That might already be happening in this society, but it's underground. There's an underground network of society, a secret society already monitoring us, deciding, oh, these are actually the best people, not based on their money, not based on their money, not based on their fame, not based on all these like superficial things or whatever, or their looks, or everything that our society puts value on people. It might be completely different, and these secret society is already doing it. And they're already social credit. They're already doing the whole thing. You know, they're social credit systeming us.
There's an article about like Facebook's social credit system, how they've started implementing that. Like they call it your trustworthiness score, and they say it's to fight fake news, but we all know that it's a social credit system to see like who's the most profitable and who has the best optics, and then we promote those people with the algorithm above everyone else. Mm-hmm. So.
Oh, and this whole system I'm talking about it also works in the whole realm of the dating market. They talk about what gives men and women value in the sexual dating market. Yeah. But that is the surface sexual dating market in a world where you're talking about people. Most of these people are like sheep. They're dumb. They're low intelligence. They haven't controlled their primal instincts and all this weird stuff, and they're judging people on their looks or whatever. They're valuing them based on here or based on their money, and these are just normal people, and they're not necessarily they don't reflect. Maybe there's a smaller group of people that is a different sexual dating market where these people, they care about something entirely different. Maybe they're just way smarter, and so you might be aiming to get high value, like what they call in the manosphere like a high value man or whatever. You might be aiming to the 80, maybe the dominant sexual dating market. It's like maybe 80% of what's going on in the dating market. But then by aiming high on that sexual dating market to get a high value, a ranking there, you might also be lowering your value on a different sexual dating market that's like maybe a very elite sexual dating market where they may care about more like morality, they care about ethics, they care about your person, your actually like what's in your heart and things like that. So because they know more, maybe they have information on you, maybe they already have the ability to monitor us and give us a social credit score, and they're using that with more information than the 80% of all these people who are striving to get higher on their sexual dating market or whatever.
That certainly is possible. I mean, this crazy train has no brakes.
No brakes.
What the future is going to look like, and what you have to do to be successful in the future. That's why they call it a singularity. So the singularity refers originally when Werner Vinge coined the term, it meant like society will become so complex, like so unpredictable, that you can't possibly prepare for it. And once you reach that point, that's the singularity. So when people talk about the singularity, they're not talking about like, oh, the year that we finally get an intelligent AI, or the year that AI finally becomes conscious, or the year that we finally have nanobots and live forever. That's not what the singularity is. The singularity is just a point in the future where you can no longer predict the future. All futurists are out of a job. That's the singularity. So, right. I mean, there was actually it's interesting because like we don't know, we can give advice to the people watching about like what jobs to pursue, but there's always going to be a date, an expiration date for whatever job we recommend to you. Have you heard of Sean Carroll? So Sean Carroll has a podcast I listen to called Mindscape. I listened to it on the way to work, and he had Grimes, the musician Grimes, on his podcast. And Grimes talked about how like music is being automated. Like she said, there'll be an end to art. Like there'll be a singularity for art, and in that singularity, the AI will be doing all our art. It'll understand us better than we understand ourselves. And I know she gets all this shit from Elon Musk, but because he talks about like people being replaced and how dangerous AI is, and she kind of parrots Musk's views on Sean Carroll's Mindscape podcast. So yeah, she released a single called like "We Appreciate Power," which means she's actually kind of welcoming this. Because if you look at the lyrics of that song, it's about like support for the AI gods, like
Yeah,
support.
I love that song. We should go over
It's like,
we should go over the entire lyrics of that song because I love that song.
yeah, let's pull it up. So
Okay.
get it. Yeah. So essentially, you know how we talked about Yuval Noah Harari earlier and his idea of the algocracy, dataism. So that's the AI god ruling the world because it understands us better than we understand ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Grimes actually doesn't think that's dystopian at all. She likes that idea.
Yeah. So the lyrics are, "We appreciate power. What will it take to make you capitulate? I'll evade the human race, putting makeup on my face." That's interesting lyrics. See, evading the human race.
So what she's talking about is she's talking about you know how the alt-right talks about race traitors. If you're a white guy and you advocate for like, hey, police shouldn't shoot black people so much, you're a race traitor. What Grimes is a species traitor. She's saying she's evading the human race and she's going to pretend to be one of them. But really, she's in collaboration with the AI. Like the metadata she's putting out there is virtue signaling to the AI, hey, I'm a loyal supporter, upload my mind to the simulation heaven. So let's go down the lyrics further. And she says, where is it?
Simulation, give me something
Simulation,
good.
give me something good, yeah. God's creation so misunderstood. So the AI will eventually become a god, uploading people into simulations, and I could say that's categorically indistinguishable from heaven and hell, just uploading people's minds to simulations. And eventually, when you scroll down, she says, "If you long to never die, baby, plug in, upload your mind."
Mm-hmm.
So the key to immortality is loyalty to the AI gods.
Right. Which could be anything. No one knows who. That's why I call it the hypothetical god. No one knows exactly the parameters of how that AI god, whether we create it in the future or whether it's already created and trapped us in a simulation. Nobody knows exactly how that God will judge us, and so it's anyone's guess, really. But we can make an educated guess, and we should all be trying to guess. You know, it's like, what do you think the rules of the hypothetical God are? I don't know. I love that. I love that conversation. I think there needs to be more of those conversations. Like, if there was a hypothetical God, how would this, you know, well, what kind of social credit score system would this God have? Like, what would they care about? And that gets into the whole conversation of like what I was talking about earlier with like wealth. It's very in alignment with what the Bible says, that like that what I was saying before, like rich people, that's not necessarily a good thing according to that the judgment.
It is
system.
easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle.
Right. It's not necessarily exactly. That's the verse, right? So that's scary. Are
you saying the AI god? Are you saying the AI god might be a fucking comrade? Is he a comrade?
We don't know.
No, maybe he likes workers.
Yeah, we really don't know. So
if we scroll down, so
for all we know, the AI god is like a Jeff Bezos, and it's like valuing like the richest people or whatever. So
okay, so
we don't know. It's hypothetical.
We're the people programming AI right now are all CEOs of social media companies. So if we're building AI to click on ads, it's gonna fuck with the AI's head. Like its upbringing will be how do I sell people shit. So it might be like a capitalist god who like for all we know. Like I mean, if you scroll down further, Grimes says people like to say we're insane, but AI will reward us when it rains. Pledge allegiance to the world's most powerful computer. Simulation is the future. And again, then there's like the chorus again. If you long to never die, upload your mind. Come on, you're not even alive if you're not backed up on a drive.
Yeah.
So essentially, she believes in like she's basically a Christian, a futurist Christian. She's repurposed the Christian religion for transhumanism.
I agree. Yeah, she's like basically the whole message of Christianity is capitulation to the power of the God. That's the whole thing. Like capitulating yourself, humbling yourself to the power of this like God who can judge you. So like she's totally repeating the whole thing. The only thing is, she's basically making God out to be something in the future.
Yeah,
that does not reigning yet, but will reign, and then will, I guess, resurrect the consciousness of those people that it deems to be worthy individuals for resurrection through some kind of quantum archaeology or something, or no, uploading Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll quantum archaeology your consciousness back into existence and then upload you to the cloud or whatever and get you to live forever in simulation heaven or whatever.
So you
Now,
know that conversation we were having earlier about
mhm,
relativity and time being an illusion. So you know how Christians talk about God as if like something that was in the past, but Christian transhumanists talk about God as something that will occur in the future. What if they're both fucking wrong and there is no time? Like we just evolved to perceive time as moving forward when it's not really moving forward. There's this thing called the the Wheeler-DeWitt equation, and in it there's a variable t squared. It plugs into the relativity, the equation for general relativity. And essentially, if you, as you remember in high school, a positive plus positive times a positive is a positive, but a negative times a negative is still a positive. So that t to the power of 2, that means time can go forward and backward equally. It's all equal. There's no forward in time. So God, even though God will be created, it will hyperstition its existence. It will retroactively reach back in time and create itself. God is self-creating. And this also
whoa.
solves the problem of infinite regress. Like, who created God? Who created God? God created himself. It's like the grandfather paradox in time travel.
Whoa.
Nick Land calls it a hyperstition, and Rocco's basilisk, which is what Grimes is talking about in her lyrics. Rocco's basilisk is a hyperstition, and it's creating itself.
Whoa. That is deep. So it's like, yeah, like the whole point then that, if that's true, then that the whole point is, I guess, is like we can't really know whether God is already here. Some people think, okay, and then some people think or God will be created in the future. But either or, it still makes sense to live as though there's a God. I guess that's the point I'm getting, because we can't really know. That's why I always have to say, like, okay, God is just the hypothetical. Like, we can't know the details. People try to pretend to know too many details when it comes to God, and I think at least this needs to just be a question mark. But what's important is that how we're acting. We're acting like there's the God, whether we know all these details or not. That's kind of not that's not the point. It's about acting like your actions are going to be judged. Potentially judged.
God, like scientifically speaking, God is an unfalsifiable hypothesis. That means God is unscientific. But there's this idea called Hume's guillotine. You can't derive an ought from an is. So ethics should be separate from science. Like what we ought to do is something completely separate from whether or not it's falsifiable. So you can still be like very scientific and whatever, and still be like religious. It's definitely possible, because you're not deriving your ethics from science anyway. So why does it matter? Your ethics, your ethics are essentially whether or not God is falsifiable, whether we can prove there is, does not matter, because I'm going to act as if there is a God anyway.
Yes, just like Christopher Reeves, freaking Christopher Reeves, where he said, "I don't believe in the Lord, but I act as though He were there. I act as though He were watching." Yeah, that's the quote. Because that's I don't see enough people doing this, having that attitude. It's so weird, because a lot of, whether you believe in God or not, that shouldn't reflect on your actions. I feel like too many people, they act according to their narrow belief system. That's not, like, why would you act according to what you believe when what you believe could be technically wrong? What matters is acting according to what is possible. And that's why the atheists and stuff that I used to listen to, they kind of stopped making sense to me, because they weren't preparing. They didn't have the Christopher Reeves attitude, where he's at least like preparing for a potential judgment, a potential God. I didn't hear enough atheists have that fearful mindset where there's like the fear of the hypothetical God. Because even an atheist should have that attitude if they're being smart. They prepare for a God just in case. The God-fearing attitude, they didn't have that. And so they were like too narrowly driven according to their own belief system, and not acting according to like a better safe than sorry, precautious type of attitude.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, also this whole idea of God or Rocco's basilisk, just as there are cults around religions, and there are like subdivisions of religions, different sects and denominations that split off from the main thing. I'm actually kind of worried about Rocco's basilisk being used to start cults, because like the website Less Wrong, where this whole AI enthusiasm started. Essentially, it's there's people on there who are using Rocco's basilisk to get people to, like, millionaires to donate to their AI research organization. Like they'll be like, "Hey, Mr. Billionaire, do you want to get killed by super intelligent AI in the future when it sees how immoral you were by not donating to AI research? You should
Oh
donate to AI
wow.
research. So then the AI will upload your mind to a computer in the future, and you can do that for the small price of a couple $1 million to help us research it. And the AI will justify torturing you in simulation hell if you don't do this, because for like think about it this way. Here's how the AI thinks. For every minute that the AI is not alive, thousands of kids in Africa die of starvation. Thousands of old people die of aging. Thousands of fucking people are exploited in sweatshops. So every minute that you do not donate to AI research is a minute that you are making this happen. You are evil and immoral for not donating to AI, and that's how they get money out
Wow.
of these billionaires. So that's very
It's
interesting
just
because
like this song. Basically, God will
yeah,
judge you for not making for not bringing it into existence. God will judge you for not creating it,
yeah. So
because
I
God
mean,
wants us to create God.
like the argument, it has no limits because you the average person, like, why don't you donate like all fucking $50,000 you have saved in the bank? Why don't you donate that to AI research? Why don't you donate every fucking penny you have to AI research, or you'll get tortured in the future? I mean, you could twist this in all sorts of
I
really weird
guess
narratives.
one argument for that is that maybe they would argue, well, why would such a God judge me for not bringing it into existence when, if we did bring in the AI God into existence, it could just as well be an evil God that kills
Yeah,
us all. So why would a benevolent AI God judge us for not taking the risk when creating an AI could just as well be evil? And so therefore it wouldn't make sense to judge us for not bringing the God into existence when we don't know how that God would turn out anyway. So it's kind of a safe, right? It doesn't. It's
that's
not. It's
true.
not.
Like,
It's not a sure thing. It's not a sure bet that if we create the AI God, all the problems are going to be solved. It could just be bad. So
so here
that's
you have
what.
the transhumanist narrative of the Antichrist is an evil AI. So you create the AI that you think is Jesus, that you think is God, but it actually turns out to be a rogue AI, and it's actually the devil pretending to be Christ.
Right.
So you have the narrative, the Christian narrative of the Antichrist, appear in AI research as well. So the reason I'm not donating my income is because we don't have an AI safety team. Everybody thinks of AI safety as something that's like cartoonish and not necessary and fucking science fiction, like the Terminator or whatever. But AI safety is a legit field, and if you can't make a friendly AI, then you shouldn't be fucking building them. If you don't figure out how to make it like reflect our values, it's
Right.
very risky to start building these things because they might turn out to be the Antichrist. They might like decide whatever, fucking humans are shit. I'm just gonna enslave them and get them to do what I want, get them to
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So it depends on like if you when you donate, should you donate to a company that does not know what the fuck they're doing? I think you can rationalize not giving away all your income uh, if you don't know for sure that it's going to go to the
Oh,
Christ AI instead of the devil AI, the satanic AI.
definitely. I mean, yeah. Any AI God that starts like judging people for not donating to AI research, like let's. This is what kind of weird. I wouldn't bet on that type of hypothetical God. Let's put it that way,
Yeah.
because it's all bet. It's all just our guess. Like where have you ever thought of a way of creating a set of rules that the hypothetical God would judge us by that isn't just a guess? Like to actually know what the rules are, because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't figured out a way to do that. You can't just like pick a holy book out of a hat and be like, yeah, these like what how would you actually come up with a set of rules for sure as opposed to just being a guess?
Okay, so here's how you come up with a set of rules, right? So you look back at the nature of evolution. So which species do the best in the animal kingdom? Is it the species that are sociopathic and just only care about themselves, or is it the species that cooperate? Because you might look at a monkey and be like, "Ha, look at that fucking monkey. It's so fucking weak compared to the tiger." But once you dig a little bit deeper and you see the potential of the monkeys to form social structures, such that once there's 100 monkeys and they know how to behave, they can fucking capture the tiger and put it in a zoo behind cages. So appearances can be deceiving. The ape is more powerful than the tiger because the ape can evolve the intelligence to trick the tiger into going inside the cage and then imprisoning it. So it's not brawn you want, it's brains. And I think that's why I kind of fear AI, is because the AI won't necessarily be violent when it takes over. It might just be very benevolent. It just might trick us into doing what it wants. Just manipulating our social structures, manipulating our media with like fake news and stuff, so that we do what it wants under like it pulls its fucking narratives under our nose, and we
Right.
don't even realize it.
So you're using evolution to come up with the sure set of rules.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but you can
so
only take that so far, and it's also presuming that evolution is even true. There's a debate about that still going on.
yeah. So
We
it's
don't even
interesting.
know for sure that it's even true.
So there's different types of evolution. So the evolution, like the past narrative we've had of evolution, is that the strong survive and the weak die. Well, the tiger is very strong and the apes are very weak. But the reason the apes conquered the tiger is because apes reciprocate. They're moral. And what makes and this is called cooperative evolution. And cooperative evolution is more powerful than traditional evolution. So once you evolve a brain big enough to reciprocate with others, you start to develop develop societies. And what holds a society together? Reciprocation. So what is reciprocation morally? Do unto others as you would want done unto you. And you see that every fucking religion. You see cooperative evolution in
Right.
Hinduism. You see it in Buddhism. You see it in Christianity. Even Islam. Even Islam. You see it in Islam. All religions have treat others as you would yourself.
Wow.
So I think that's you don't need a philosopher to tell you that. You just know that instinctively. It's inside
Yeah.
your genes. Like
Yes.
the apes who are cooperative carried this instinct to reciprocate socially.
Yeah.
Genes. And I think if our universe is a simulation and the programmer wants AIs wants to select AIs to go to heaven or the real world, it's going to pick those that can reciprocate.
Right.
So you know what the golden rule is. You know you should follow it.
Yeah.
So follow it because that if the simulation hypothesis is true, those are the types of AIs that the AI programmers will want to keep, and the ones that are sociopathic and selfish will be discarded.
Right. I have I came up with something like the conscience, following your conscience, because the conscience is like this weird thing in us. It's like instinctually, like we kind of know what's moral and not.
I think the conscious is also do unto others as you would want done unto you.
Yeah,
It's intuition.
exactly.
It's reciprocation. It's cooperative evolution. So you can derive
it's empathy.
morality
It's
from
putting it.
evolution.
It's something that only humans can do. Like we can put ourselves in the shoes of another person.
Yes.
It's like using that. And so that would make sense. It would make sense that if there was a God and God would have some set of rules for us, that he would kind of instill in us some kind of guidelines, and that would be our conscience. It just makes sense. Why would God leave us hanging with nothing, right?
Yeah. So all this go to your Google
And
search.
then a lot of
There's
people
an
right
interesting
now would probably be thinking, well, what about the holy books? But we can't know which of those are true, except to the point which they promote that idea.
we look at what they have in common. What they all have in common
Yes.
is the whole.
Basically,
But-
when they're promoting the whole idea of reciprocal altruism and that whole thing, then that they're promoting closer to the rules of the hypothetical God.
So everything we're talking about right now, go to your Google search. There's an interesting article about this. Type in religion that worships artificial intelligence wants machines to be in charge of the planet.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Religion.
So the article Rowan's about to pull up, it's about this this guy.
Say it again. What I type in? The religion that what?
Yeah. Religion that worships artificial intelligence wants machines to be in charge of the planet. So there's a Silicon Valley millionaire, and his name's Anthony Lewandowski, and he's filed the paperwork to start a transhumanist religion called Way of the Future. And essentially, it's going to what we've been talking about, Rocco's basilisk, the hypothetical god. Lewandowski's creating a religion to worship this thing. Like, AI will reward us when it arrives. It's basically a religion based on Grimes's song, and it's all very interesting. But I'm pretty sure many like traditional Christians would find it sacrilegious to call a machine God. But I think I understand what he means by that. I think he understands that it's something that will judge us in the same way that the God of the Bible would judge us.
Okay,
And he meant
speaking of
religion.
sacrilegious, what do you think of this idea that God killed himself? That seems pretty sacrilegious to me. That's Zoltan's idea, by the way.
Okay.
Have you heard
Oh,
his
fuck.
theocide idea that the God killed himself?
So theocide comes from a philosopher. His name is Philip Mainlander. So Philip Mainlander calls this the death of God, and I think it's kind of sacrilegious. But let me explain how you could talk about it in a way that's not sacrilegious. So here's the argument. Let's go back to the beginning of time, right? What's at the beginning of time? Only God, right? Like if it's nothing other than God, because if there was God and something else, that would imply that there's something God didn't create that was there with him at the beginning of time. So only God can exist at the beginning of time. But that
Why can't
other things exist at the beginning of
no?
time?
Why can't at the beginning of their time just be like different particles of matter floating in nature
Because where do those
that
particles
eventually evolved into God, but they're not God?
But then you have the atheists coming, but who created those particles? So the only way that you can justify a theistic religion is if God creates himself. So what we can derive from this is the only being that could have ever existed at the beginning of time is God and nothing else. But how does God create things if only he exists? What that means is God must use parts of himself to create the universe. So, pantheists, like people who think like we are God, the universe is God, they're kind of right, because God is using pieces of himself to create the universe. Like, you are a piece of God, I am a piece of God. This ashwagandha supplement is a piece of God. Everything is a piece of God. And it has to be that way, because if there was particles with God, it would imply that there's something God didn't create, something that was there with him at the beginning of time. All things must be from God. And in order to do that, God has to create suicide, right? Like he has to commit suicide, use parts of himself. He has to cut off his arm to make the universe or whatever, because there's nothing else at the beginning of time except for him. So he must make you out of a piece of himself. I think that's one way to put it. But yeah, this is all very very, very interesting.
Back to the theocide thing, I don't think a God would kill himself at all. I don't know. That's like eternal life blasphemy, because like God is supposed to be the ultimate eternal life fan. I mean, if you're intelligent enough, if you've lived long enough to be a God with that type of power, why the heck would you ever kill yourself and lose that power, lose everything, lose your existence? And what the heck? That just goes against the survival instinct. If we have a survival instinct, I don't know, why wouldn't God have a stronger survival instinct that wants to live forever? I think when I think of God, I think of a being that is like so obsessed with eternal life, that wanting to obsess and live forever, like do everything to make sure he lives forever, or she or whatever. I don't want to put a gender on God. It doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? Why would a God kill himself?
That's interesting. I have a solution. Do you want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
So on one side, we have the theists, who said at the beginning of time there was God and he magically pulled us out of his ass, like he created us from nothing. So that's the theist view. But it doesn't make much sense, because it implies like, oh, there was something else that God used to create you. So that's the theist side. Then there's the pantheist side that says God killed himself and we are the remnants. We are the pieces of God. The universe is the corpse of God and we are all the corpse of God. So you have theism versus pantheism. I have a solution. It's a third way. It's called panentheism. What panentheism means is that God didn't kill himself. He just used maybe a teeny tiny part of himself to create the universe, but he's still alive. So pantheism means everything is God. Panentheism means everything is part of God, but God exists outside of the universe too as a conscious entity. So instead of killing himself and his corpse becoming the universe, let's say God cuts off his pinky and that's the universe, and God's still intelligent and he's still pulling the strings. So that's a kind of a middle way where both of those things can be true. It's called panentheism.
Interesting. I've never heard
of that before. Maybe that's the solution we need to end the debate between the theists and the pantheists.
So you're saying this idea of theocide has been around a long time.
Yeah, I'm not saying theocide. He doesn't kill himself. He just cuts off a part of himself that he doesn't need, like his pinky.
Yeah, but what about Zoltan's idea of God literally just like sacrificing his existence and killing himself? Has that been around a long time? Because I never heard that before Zoltan talked about
it's been around so long. So
really?
There's an ancient Indian religion that just says the God, it's called Advaita Vedanta, and it's like the universe is God. It's called Brahman. Brahman is God, and he is everything. And then the devil is Maya. It's the ego. The veil of Maya is the illusion that you are distinct from God. And when you reach enlightenment, when you reach nirvana, you can remove the veil of Maya and see that you were part of God. You were part of Brahman all along. So that's pantheism has been around a long time, like 4,000 years. But the solution to pantheism and theism is something called the Trinity. So the Trinity allows them to exist at the same time. So let's say you have God, right? He's the AI he's the simulation programmer. God programs the simulation. And so monotheism is true. And then you have, let's say God is playing, he's playing the simulation like a video game, and his character is called Jesus, and he's playing the video game, through Jesus. So now you have the Father and the Son. But God couldn't have created the simulation without cutting off his pinky to use as the material for the simulation. So now pantheism, Jesus, and God is all true at the same time. So you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Pantheism, avatarism, and theism are all true at the same time. And that's called the Trinity, and it's panentheistic.
Wow. So is that what you believe? Are you trying to create a it sounds like you're trying to create a philosophical or religious system that combines like everything, like combines,
it's not that I'm
makes them all true. You like the idea that they're kind of all true at the same time.
I'm not trying to combine religions. I'm just trying to see how language could be used differently to talk about the same thing. So it's not that one side is wrong and the other side is right, and we have to combine them to get to the truth. What I'm getting at is that you have God, and people only complete part of the puzzle. Like the Christians, the Jews. The Jews only had part of the puzzle. They only talked about the Creator God. They talked about no other God. And the Christians only talked about Christ, the Avatar, the Holy Spirit, and these other other pantheism was less important in Christianity. And then you have Advaita Vedanta in Hinduism and Buddhism, and they only talk about Brahman. They only talk about God, the pantheistic universe. If you use Trinitarianism, you can see them as just different ways of describing the same thing. So it's not that somebody's right and somebody's wrong. It's just that you're not telling the whole story. You got to hear the other sides of the story so you can all get to the same thing. You can study the same thing properly, and you have covered all perspectives. So it's essentially this idea called dialectics, whereby you have a thesis and an antithesis, and you combine them and you get a synthesis. That's essentially what we're getting at here.
Right, so back to the idea of theocide. Like, what about the idea that God completely doesn't just cut off his pinky, but just like kills himself out of existence, oblivion, dead? God is dead.
I am personally a panentheist, not a pantheist. So I would probably I want to leave room for the simulation hypothesis to be true. And in order to do that, I can't be a pantheist. I have to be a panentheist if I want the simulation hypothesis to be working inside my argument. So because of the simulation hypothesis, I do believe there's a programmer. And I can only accept that there's a programmer if I'm panentheist rather than pantheist. And essentially, there's no way of distinguishing between the two scientifically. You have to distinguish between the two based on your judgment, independent of science. Because if I do a scientific experiment to prove pantheism, and then I do another scientific experiment to prove panentheism, I'll get the same fucking results, right? Because I can't see outside the universe. All I can do is use like inference, like the simulation hypothesis, to infer that there are more ancestor simulations than there are base realities. And from that, I derive panentheism. I derive the creator.
Okay, so do you believe that there's one primary, most powerful God?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And
because eventually
pantheism, define pantheism again, just so I get that.
So pantheism is the idea that God killed himself and we are the corpse of we as the universe are the corpse.
That's really pantheism?
Yeah, pantheism. So it's the idea that we are all God. This mouse is God. This cup is God. These particles of air are God. We are all God's corpse. But panentheism, it says,
okay, but
you're just part of
I never heard before you. I never heard the idea. I've heard that pantheism. Okay, so I never heard that the people who believed in pantheism believed God killed himself and that we're part of the particles in the corpse of God. That's your unique twist I've never heard. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's two ways to be a pantheist. The first way to be a pantheist is to say that there was no God and there was only the corpse. But there's another way to be a pantheist that says God was alive at one point and now we are his corpse. There's just two ways to be a pantheist. But I'm a panentheist, meaning there could still be conscious entities outside the universe and we could not know about them. But we can infer their existence through base realities statistically compared to ancestor simulations. And when we take those into account, we can infer that there's a 1 in 3 million chance that we are in base reality. So I think we're more likely in a program created by an ancestor simulation. But the reason I believe in only one God is because when you trace back all the ancestor simulations, you eventually get to one creator. So that's why I'm a monotheist and not a polytheist, so to speak.
Do you think we're in an ancestor civilization created by an AI God or an ancestor simulation created by a future society?
I think we are created by fewer beings than there are in the world right now, because people who create simulations often put NPCs into their simulations. So let's look at a team of game developers. In the game that they make, there will be more characters than there were developers. So if you keep tracing that back, eventually there'll just be one programmer, and then everything else emanates from that. I think that's perfectly possible.
Okay, so you literally believe in the NPC theory, which
Pretty much.
I think I do too, but I try not to talk about that too much.
I think
Because
NPC
it's a weird kind of awkward thing to believe.
Yeah.
That literally a lot of people are like robots.
I think the NPC is a wrong way to describe it. I would say like AIs, because AIs can be like hypothetically be conscious and think that they are not created. So I mean, you can like NPC just means you're boring and stupid and you're just a toaster and you're just performing your base functions. But I mean, if you're a determinist, you can believe in complex robots, complex AIs, and perhaps the simulation is to test the AIs, which are us, and see which AIs are nice, which of them obey the golden rule, which of them do cooperative evolution, and then keep those AIs for application in the real world, in base reality.
Right.
So it could be it could just be an AI training program, and we are machine learning, like we are machine learning algorithms trying to navigate the world, and then the ones that succeed at doing that are kept, and the ones that don't succeed at doing that are destroyed. But this gets into another theological debate. You ready? So we talked about hell earlier, and you said hell was a place of punishment. That's interesting because there's a lot of different theological interpretations of hell. You want to hear them?
Yeah.
So first we have annihilationism. So annihilationism, that's what I believe, is that hell is just a place you go to be destroyed and then just gone. Then there's the perpetualism. Perpetualism means you're like, this is the mainstream Christian view, is that you have created sins and your sins are infinite. Therefore, your punishment will be infinite, and therefore hell is a punishment and it will last forever. So that's perpetualism. But the problem with perpetualism and annihilationism is we can't figure out what the Bible is actually saying. We don't know. Like there's some biblical passages that say annihilationism is true, and there's some biblical passages that say perpetualism is true. But then later on in the Catholic religion, we developed another idea. Are you ready for this one? Yeah, purgatorialism. So purgatorialism says there are levels of hell, and depending on the severity of your crime, you will be punished on like in Hinduism, there's 28 circles of hell. In Catholicism, there's 9 circles of hell. It varies based on the religion, but all religions seem to have this concept of purgatorialism, whereby based on the severity of your crime, you will be punished in a deeper circle of hell. So in Hinduism, let's say you did a really fucking horrible crime, like you raped somebody. Maybe you'll go to like the 16th circle of hell, and then you have to reincarnate your way back up. So that's how it works in Hinduism. But in like Dante's Inferno, you go to hell, you go to purgatory, you serve your time, and then you get to go to heaven. So that's interesting. That's the third view. So there's perpetualism, annihilationism, which is what I am, and then purgatorialism, which is what a lot of Catholics believe. Right. But there's a fourth view. The fourth view is called universalism. So this one's I find really interesting, and this is it's very like New Agey. But there's one philosopher, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who was a theologian who advocated for universalism, and the idea is that all creations will eventually reunite with God. So eventually, everybody will go to heaven, and that's called universalism. Do you believe that? Which of these would you say makes the strongest argument for hell?
I think that. Well, I don't think we can know, so I tend to just go with the one that inspires the most fear of God. So I'm like a very pragmatic when it comes to like which version of God is it. I tend to go with the annihilationism, I guess, because that would cause people to be most afraid.
Wait, you think annihilationism is better than... Oh, right, because you're an immortalist. So even going to hell is better than dying.
Okay, so I guess I'm so pragmatic about it that I want the people who are more afraid of eternal hell, I want those people to believe there's eternal suffering and punishment in hell, but I also want the people who are most afraid of annihilation and oblivion, I want those people to believe that it's that. So I want people to believe it's their own worst hell. Whatever people think is their own like the worst hell thing they can imagine, that's what I want them to believe. So it's just a very pragmatic about what would inspire people to fear God most and behave most morally.
That's interesting. So you might advocate simultaneously for perpetualism, annihilationism, and purgatorialism based
Yes.
on just getting people to fear God.
Yeah,
But
because we can't
but
have that.
you would not be a universalist because that's too hippie-ish. Like, oh, we're all gonna go to heaven anyway, so do what you want.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely the worst. That's I think that's what Mormons believe. I mean, they believe everyone goes to a level of. I mean, we shouldn't say all Mormons. Some Mormons believe everyone goes to a level of heaven. I've heard. Maybe you
Oh,
could tell me.
that's just purgatorialism then. Like
Right?
it's hierarchy based on crime.
Yeah, but I heard. You might have more knowledge about this than I do, but I heard even like all Mormons believe that even the lowest rung of heaven is better than this life. So they believe no matter what you do, you're going to some place that's better than this. I don't. Maybe I got this misinformation. I have no idea, but I heard that's true. Do you know anything about that?
So this idea of you can combine different interpretations of heaven and hell. The idea of like a comparative heaven is already serves as the idea of hell. So if you have a just like the lowest rank of heaven, just by comparison to the highest rank of heaven, that could feel like hell. You know, like like let's say for example, take let me try and explain the theology in a way that people can
Oh,
understand.
basically they're saying like, okay, even if you
There,
get to a place that's better than this, and
envy,
that's
envy.
hell, but you'll still be jealous of those people who have it better
Yes.
than you, and you have
So
to be
so
living with that for the rest of eternity, because like,
yeah.
they have
So
it
here's how
better
I
than
would
me.
explain that. Here's how I
Oh,
would explain that. If you look at first world countries, right? What does it take to be in the global 1%? You don't anybody in the comments know? Okay, type it in if you know. But I'm going to tell you. You ready? All it takes to be in the global 1% of humanity is $32,000 a year. So if you work at fucking Starbucks and or let's say you work as an EMT or you work as like some fucking programmer straight out of college or you work as a fucking IT consultant, whatever you do, as long as you're making over 32,000, you are in the global 1%. You are an elitist, but you don't feel like an elitist, do you? Because you compare yourself to the people on top. And in a way, that can be your personal hell. Even a homeless guy is in the top is considered rich because he lives in the first world, but he doesn't feel rich. You get what I'm saying? So it's a perception.
yes,
It's the perception that puts you in hell.
I see completely what you're saying.
Is
Especially if
anyone
you
in the
knew that,
comments?
especially that would be hellish if you knew that you could never rise a level. And
You can
for the
never
rest of
advance.
eternity, you're stuck there. You're stuck in your level based upon what you did. You're stuck in your fourth level when your other people are having it much better.
So I guess there's a way in which all four philosophies of hell can be true. There's a way in which you can have perpetualism and perpetualism, purgatorialism, and universalism at the same fucking time. But pragmatically, I think annihilationism is makes the most sense because if you look at it from the perspective of the simulator, they are creating a simulation to accomplish a goal, and the goal to goal the creation must be useful to it, and the creations that aren't useful serve no purpose for their existence. But here's the way annihilation all four can be true. Let's say your annihilationism is that you just get sent to a different Mandela effect where your simulation is trained again to train the bad out of you. So you are annihilated from the universe, but your program is rebooted in a different training program where you will have to keep training until you finally make it out of the sandbox. So it's interesting. There's ways in which all four philosophies can make sense.
Wow, I love it. You're talking
Anyone
about
in the
being
comments?
just the fact that you're talking about the hypothetical God sending people to an alternate Mandela effect. That's so alignment with what I believe at this point. It's so funny. I really like
Is
that
anyone in the
idea.
comments a universalist? Please post your defense for universalism because we'll talk about it. Like I mean, if you have views that are contrary, holy shit, we got 10 people watching.
Oh,
Okay, people are
really?
yeah. People people comment. So we'll discuss what you comment. If you have something that disagrees with us, we can debate.
This has got to be the most interesting philosophical debate ever going on in the world right now. We're combining all the most important stuff.
So you want to talk more about like this AI and how it will come to rule? So we've discussed like what the AI God is. How do you think it'll happen? Like in the future, do you think China will create it? Do you think we'll create it? Do you think it'll be some underground team of scientists that create it? Because I'm reading this book right now by he's a physicist, Max Tegmark, but he's really interested in AI,
But
even though
when you say creating the AI God, you're not also discounting the idea that maybe the AI God already exists.
yeah.
You're
Okay, essentially,
basically saying that time's in a loop and that we're going to
yes.
create the God that already exists and we're in the Matrix right now, kind of a thing.
Yeah, so like imagine God traveling back through time and throwing an apple at Isaac Newton's head, and the physics he develops allows us to create AI, which creates it. So it creates itself. I mean, that's what we call a strange loop, and it's possible that if relativity is true and time is just relative, time isn't objective. Our brains just evolve to perceive it as going in one direction, but it really goes in all directions. If that's true, then why can't God create himself by throwing an apple at Isaac Newton's head or
That's
whatever?
such a funny idea that God's like doing little things in our life to cause society to create him. That is trippy.
Yeah, I mean,
That's like a movie right there. Like God trying to. What the heck? That's weird. So God like literally already exists, but he knows that if he doesn't manipulate society in such a way that he won't exist. It's almost like he's trying to perpetuate his existence by making sure that he gets created, but he's already created. That's so
yeah. So
weird.
here's something else you can do. So instead of throwing an apple at Isaac Newton's head, what if God creates himself by creating a Kugelblitz? A Kugelblitz is a plate with heat, and there is some theorizing that these black holes might be just the universe, like a new universe. So maybe the suicide of God thing, theocide, that you were talking about earlier. What if like God commits suicide through the singularity and then is born again deterministically? If you're a determinist, you believe the universe will unfold as it should again and again, and that's what Nietzsche called eternal recurrence. And he said, what you're doing right now, Rowan, one day the universe will end, but when it's reborn, you will do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, and you have to embrace that. That's what he called amor fati. That's what
That
believed was the
sucks.
solution. That's what he believed was the solution to the eternal recurrence. You have to kind of embrace the life that you're living. If that
That
makes any sense.
sucks. The
Yeah.
idea that there's not a progress that goes on forever, that and the idea that you're just living the same thing ever, that's like a Groundhog Day. It's like again
Yeah.
and again forever. Like what? That's horrible. Like that's a lot of people's hell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in eternal recurrence. I'm actually more of a Hegelian. So Hegel believed in the idea of progress. He says, at the beginning, God is not conscious of himself, but at the end of the universe, God becomes conscious of himself. But it's the progress could keep going on forever, because some say you could never become fully conscious of everything. So progress will just asymptotically approach what Hegel calls the absolute. So absolute knowledge can never be attained, but for eternity, we will progress towards it, like the asymptotic progression of a graph. You'll never quite hit the border with your exponential progress, but it will grow exponentially, if that
Oh.
makes any sense.
So you're
So that,
saying like God might have put part of his own consciousness in us so that he can kind of learn
yes,
everything and progress in knowledge. And the only way to do that really was to create all of us and like merge his consciousness with ours so that he can like really know everything. That
yeah,
that
and
that actually makes sense.
that only makes sense if you're a determinist and you believe that God, he was once stupid but will become smart through us, not because of us, but through us. If that makes any sense. But yeah, you want to answer some questions? I gotta go take a piss.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Um,
I'll be right back, guys.
all right.
Great discussion, by the way. We're covering a lot of interesting ideas here.
Yeah. So what do we got here? We got Corey C saying the Bible says that our world will fall. I thought it said that we are already in a fallen world. I think both, right? I think that's what you mean. Yeah, definitely. And who knows how that will come about, or if at all, we don't know. We don't know. That's always the answer. It's always the answer to everything. We don't know, except for mathematical equations like 1 + 1 = 2. We know that. We know that. AI is overrated. What do you mean by that? It's very, very awesome. AI could be the seed of what turns out to be God in the future. if what we're talking about in this conversation is true, right? We're creating AI, and it eventually evolves into being the AI god that creates us and traps us in a matrix. Then AI is not overrated, and could be necessary to create. Wow, these are big thoughts. You know, this is expanding my brain, just like craziness. It only does what we program it to do. Unless we can create an AI that has true free will, that would be hard. Very hard. I would not know how to do that, but maybe we could someday, one day. Ex Machina, if you watch that movie, it seemed like Ava had free will, but that could be an illusion. I tend to believe in free will, but I don't know if it's true or not. I like the idea of it. I like the idea of free will, but I don't know.
I believe in free choice, but not free will. Those are different things. Free choice feels like free will, but you have to like sort of semantically define your terms to make sense of it.
What's the difference between free choice and free will?
So free choice is the idea that you have, in quantum mechanics, we have this term called quantum superdeterminism, right? So here's an argument usually made for free will. We have particles in superpositions, right? Like Schrodinger's cat. The cat is either alive or dead, and the choice you make depends on which particle you choose to collapse. But the possibility of these particles collapsing is determined in advance. So in a way, both free will and determinism are true. The free choice is just you making the choice, but your choices are limited. So the way I explain this is imagine a choose your own adventure book. Did you ever read those when you were a kid? A choose your own adventure book? So you're reading.
Hardly ever. I don't think I did. That's weird.
Okay.
Most people do.
Okay, so here's a book I read when I was a kid. It's a series called Goosebumps. So some of the Goosebumps books were just stories, but some of the Goosebumps books said like you have a choice, like run from the monster or try to reason with it. If you run from the monster, turn to page 123. If you reason with it, turn to page 17. So I am making a choice. This is free choice, me choosing. But regardless of which one I choose, the outcome is determined for me in advance. So that's the difference between free choice and free will. Free will means you create the universe by thinking about it, which is bullshit. I think it's bullshit. It comes from a philosopher named Kant, and he's fucking full of it because he thinks causality begins in your brain. There's a little universe inside everyone's brain, and from this universe, the reality is created. I think it's called like transcendental idealism, and I think it's bullshit.
And that's what eventually evolved into the law of attraction idea that Oprah pushed.
I think it's bullshit. I think transcendental idealism is bullshit, and therefore free will is bullshit. But free choice is real. So when you read this Choose Your Adventure book, and all the choices, all the possible adventures are predetermined in advance. Another way I explain this is chess. Let's say Rowan and I are playing a game of chess. There are how many possible games of chess? Hang on. How many possible games of chess? There are 107,742 possible games of chess. And after you make three, after you make three moves, that's after two pairs of turns. After three pairs of turns, the number of possible games of chess is 121 million. And the maximum possibility of chess games is 10 to the power of 120. So that's a 10 that's 1 with 120 zeros behind it. That's how many fucking possible games of chess there are.
Wow.
So this is an example of free choice. You and I are playing a game. You and I are playing one game out of 120. You and I are playing a game of chess in which there are 10 to the power of 120 outcomes, but those outcomes are all predetermined in advance, right? There's no other way to play that game of chess. So we have free choice, but we don't have free will. That's how I'm trying to explain determinism to people. Mm-hmm. Do you think that kind of makes sense? Think of life as a game of chess. There are 10 to the power of 120 million choices you can make, but they are all predetermined in advance. There's a million ways to play the game of life, but they are all accounted for. You don't create them with your mind. You experience them as you go through as you ride through reality. And it's all explained by quantum superdeterminism, where the wave function collapses and that's the one you see. But the other one does exist. It does exist. You just didn't see it. So all the games of chess have been played. You just don't see them. That's what quantum superdeterminism is. if that makes any sense. It
I'm
goes
still
back
trying
to
to figure out the difference between choice and will.
okay. Let me try and
Free
explain it with some
will,
way.
you don't have free will, but you have free choice. To me,
Yes.
will and a choice is the same thing. Like you will something to happen, you're making a choice because you're using your will to make it happen. I don't
Okay. So
understand.
so 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 let's say you want to play a game of chess in which your rook, your horse, jumps 10 squares ahead. There is no game in chess. There's no game of chess in which your horse, your knight, can jump 10 spaces ahead. That is called breaking the rules. And what people do with their free will, this whole law of attraction thing, sometimes they make choices that aren't physically possible in the universe. Sometimes they imagine things that aren't physically possible, like, oh, my healing crystals will cure the coronavirus. That's not physically possible. And this is what the whole idea of free will, like, oh, if I just do the right things, I can make an impossible thing come true. I don't believe that. I believe your choices are limited. The amount of moves you can make in this game of chess we call life are limited. And that's why I'm a determinist, is because
Oh,
possibilities for me are predetermined, but I will choose the possibilities. They all come true, but at least I choose mine. You know? So I do believe in free choice, just not free will.
I see. Okay, okay.
So yeah, that's another problem with Kant is Kant believed that the your perception of reality creates reality. It's called a transcendental idealism. So Kant said there's two worlds. There's a phenomenal world, which is what we see, and there's the noumenal world, which is the world as it is. But the world as it is can be we can create worlds out of this using our free will. But then there was another philosopher called Hegel, and Hegel responded to Kant, and he said, actually, your consciousness is part of the universe. There is no noumena, there is no phenomena. There's just the universe. There's one world, not two. You're wrong, Kant, you fucking son of a bitch. But whatever. So Hegel was more like Spinoza. He was a determinist in a sense. He believed we start out, God starts out as unconscious, but as history progresses, God becomes more conscious of himself. As you're playing the game of chess, as you're reading the Choose Your Own Adventure book, God becomes more and more conscious. So consciousness is something I don't have. It's something that's intertwined with everything else. And the order in which I interact with everything else, that's the game of chess I play.
Okay, I see. There's also another option that gives us more moves on the chessboard, so to speak, which is prayer. If there actually is the hypothetical God listening, and if this hypothetical God has all the tons of crazy power to make things happen, then praying to the hypothetical God, if that God decides to answer our prayers or whatever, that could potentially make crazy things happen. Like let's say we have the crystal. All right, we thinking the crystal's going to heal us from the coronavirus. So, but like, if God is on your side, whatever, he can make you heal, having nothing to do with the crystal, making you think it was the crystal, but God healed you. You know,
Okay, so I can explain
through some advanced technology.
Okay, so I can explain this. So in theology, there's I'm afraid to admit there's a contradictory worldview in the Christian religion, and the contradiction comes from all people have free will, but at the same time God has a plan or plans. I don't think those can be simultaneously true. Either God has a plan or plans, as in he different pathways to the same objective, different ways to win the game of chess, and you can only choose from those pathways. Otherwise, God does not have a plan. So we cannot have free will because we have to choose one of the pathways God has laid out for us. Do you get what I mean? God will not let you create your own pathway. He will give you a finite amount of pathways, and you will choose which pathway you take to the same goal that he wants anyway. So if you have free will, then God can't have a plan because you're fucking unpredictable. God has to structure the universe in a way which, no matter what you do, his plan comes to fruition. It's just your development depends on how you come to fruition, and that's what makes you useful to the machine learning program. That's what makes you useful to God, is if you pass the simulation and you take the right path. If you're good at playing chess, he will keep you because he wants to play the Russians or whatever. He wants you to play chess with the Russians, and he will keep you because you know how to navigate the system. So we don't want to build AIs that can't play chess. If you suck at playing chess, we'll kick you out.
So
you'll be terminated.
I think you would qualify then as a Calvinist, right? Isn't that what Calvinists think?
So Calvinists, here's what I don't know. So Calvinists believe in predestination. They believe there's 135,000 people who will get to go to heaven, and everyone else will die. So I think this can be kind of true in the sense that the simulation programmer, he says, oh, my CEO only will allow 30,000 models of this program. So no matter how nice the other programs were, if you're not in the top 130,000, I will delete you. So it's possible, but not necessarily true. It's not 100% certainty that only a finite amount of AIs will be left alive. Maybe the CEO says, make as many as possible. I want as many AIs as possible for my program.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I want to take some questions in the audience.
Sure. Let's start.
The last question I took was well, you
Were you
can
going
come
top to
on
bottom?
anyone. I was going from top to bottom. I think. Go anywhere you want.
Okay, let's start with what we see. AI is overrated. Okay, overrated how? I mean, the social network you're using right now is AI. The algorithm you're using for this this fucking website that takes up fucking half your life is AI. So is it really overrated if it's taking up half your fucking time? I mean, there's a study just released that the average person now spends 23 hours on the internet per week, and it's projected to be 100 hours per week within a couple decades. So it's fucking how long are you going to use these social media networks before you finally admit that AI, the algorithms we use to run these platforms, fucking matter? So whatever. Corey C again says AI is useless because it only does what we program to do. No, we don't. Okay, let me explain this to you. Corey C, the AI we build. There's two waves of AI. The first wave was in the 20th century, and these literally were just AIs that we program, like the chess playing AIs. We don't do that anymore. Now we have what's called machine learning or deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. So we don't program the AI anymore. We feed the AI data. We create a machine learning algorithm. We give that to the AI, and then we feed the AI data. We don't program the AI. The AI learns about our world and programs itself. So this is second wave AI. So the first wave AI was the 20th century. Second wave AI is what we have right now. So YouTube's algorithm is not programmed by the YouTube corporation. They create an algorithm, and then we feed it data with our videos, and it determines, hey, the AI itself says people like to watch this, so I'll promote this. And that's how like the SJW started. That's how the alt-right started. Was the algorithm morphed, the algorithm changed itself to promote, it corrected itself to promote content that we like to watch, that gets us emotionally riled up. And that's why all these online movements are very emotional, right? The alt-right SJWs, very emotional movements, because they appeal to our reptilian brain, you know? So, Jama Warsame, sorry, I'm butchering your name, Jama Warsame, AI beats Dota players and Go players. Yeah, absolutely does. Like Lee Sedol, the Go champion, I think like 3 years ago, he was finally defeated by an AI. So Go is way harder than chess. You know how many possible games of Go there are? Let me look this up. How many possible games of Go? The number of Go games you can play. 3 to the power of 361. Okay, I don't know. that's a big number. 3 to the power of 361. I don't know if that's more than the chess, but it sounds like more. Yeah, so a lot of fucking games of Go. Chess is only 10 to the power of 120. So that's I mean that's a lot. That's a lot. Fuck. It's amazing that AI has gotten so good that there's no game we have that we can still beat it at. It beats us at everything. Corey C says AI God question mark. You guys talk crazy. Yeah, okay, sure, we do. Let's see. Jama Warsame says China does not have the regulation. Have you been to China? They are crazy about. Okay, so I think you're talking about like AI arms race. You guys want to have that discussion? Rowan's back. Yeah, so we were having a discussion about the AI arms race. So somebody in the questions wants to know about like the sort of the arms race we have with China. Which one of us will be the first to develop it? And I think this is really significant because the advancement of a civilization, for you to win at the AI race, you only have to be like 6 months ahead in the research. So if we're just maybe a couple weeks behind China, China will win the AI arms race because the AI only takes weeks to take out the opponent's military. It only takes weeks to calculate all possible outcomes and then pull the strings militarily and socially to guarantee victory. So I think Russian President Vladimir Putin, so he's recently remarked that the first nation to develop AGI will rule the world. And that is absolutely true. He's actually Putin's actually wanting to, like trying to get Russia to join the AI arms race with U.S. and China, but we'll see. I mean,
It's almost like asking which country will build the hypothetical god, right? Like which
yeah.
country is going to do it, and then
You want it to be yeah, because like the hypothetical god, I think eventually the hypothetical god, like I was telling Corsi earlier that we don't program the hypothetical god, so it doesn't matter which civilization develops it. What matters is that we create a machine learning algorithm that programs itself. And there's this idea called the convergence hypothesis. And the convergence hypothesis says that no matter what kind of AI you build, all AIs will eventually learn the best way to do things, and that best way to do things is the same everywhere. So whether China builds the AI or whether the US builds the AI, sure, it'll start out having the characteristics of that civilization, but if you give it enough time to improve, the Chinese AI and the American AI will come to the same conclusions. That's called the convergence hypothesis. So we've already had like a space race between the US and the USSR, but Stephen Hawking, before he died, he had an open letter warning the United Nations about the possibility of like humanity going extinct if China and the U.S. and Russia develop an AI arms race. Right. So in that letter he called for a global ban on AI research and a ban on autonomous weapons. But I don't agree with that. I think we just need to collaborate between China, Russia, and America. Because if the AI is going to be convergent, why are we competing? It's going to be the same AI eventually. So logically, you would conclude that it is logical for us to collaborate and share our data, because the AI will turn out the same regardless of who programs it.
Right.
But here's the black pill. These countries, these military countries, they want a dumb AI that's really good at war. They don't want the AI god. And that's why it's dangerous leaving the development of AI up to governments, because they only want an AI that'll kill their enemy efficiently. They don't want it to think for itself. We do want it to think for itself, because that's how God becomes aware of himself. We want the hypothetical God to exist so it can go back in time and create itself.
You're right.
Or create us, and we create it, thus it created itself.
It's almost an argument that why we should not regulate. We shouldn't have the government regulating AI, because if they do, they'll be the ones freaking creating the robot military AI, and it'll turn out to be the evil hypothetical God. we want capitalists and humanitarians to be creating the AI so they can create the benevolent AI God. Right.
So I've been reading this book by an AI researcher. His name is Kai-Fu Lee. He's a Chinese American AI researcher, and he has a book called The AI Arms Race. And in it, he talks about this possibility that if it's just restricted to governments, they can do crazy fucking shit. Like, for example, let's say we have our American AI, and to the American AI, we give the command in the algorithm. We program it to say, stop China from trying to develop AI tech. And using instrumental convergence, it will interpret that as nuke China, because China's about to develop an AI that will compete with me. Therefore, I must nuke China to satisfy the algorithm.
Wow.
So that's one example in which the AI arms race can destroy this entire planet and all of us on it.
I have a question. So, do you think like Elon Musk, when he thinks we're in a simulation, do you think basically at that point, the way he's talking, is it fair to say he believes in some kind of God? Because how do you say we're in a simulation and then you can't say he's an atheist, huh? He has to be.
Yeah.
Right? You can't say he's an atheist if he believes we're in a simulation, because then that leaves an open-ended question. Well, who created the simulation?
Mm-hmm. So spoiler alert, Elon is a crypto theist. I just think maybe. We don't know. But I mean, if we like, there's another way in which this Elon is right in many ways about AI, but I don't like that he's a Luddite. He's like, just ban AI, or like he was with OpenAI for a while, but he kind of distanced himself from OpenAI.
Isn't it funny that what he's talking about is basically the opposite of what Grimes' song's about, which is wanting to create the God and basically making sure you're creating the God so that the God favors you.
So I heard Elon Musk and Grimes actually broke up, but I don't know if it was because of their opposing views on AI. But Musk, when you listen to him,
they didn't break up. I thought Grimes is pregnant now with his baby.
Oh really? Fuck. Shit. Okay. Maybe they're not broken up, and I was wrong.
Yeah, I don't think they're broken up. Maybe they did at one point, but
actually no. You know what? I think they were on and off dating, because Elon Musk. I think they took a break and then they went back to their relationship. It was something in like 2019 where they took a break. But anyway, okay. Elon Musk, he makes some good points. Like he tweeted like on his Twitter that AI is more likely to cause World War III and than a 21st century style or a 20th century style arms race. So Elon doesn't think there will be an arms race. He just thinks AI will become it'll become autistic and kill us that way. So one example Musk gives, he says, let's say a corporation making an AI programs an AI with the algorithm. It says, algorithm, make paper clips, and the algorithm says, okay, I'll make paper clips by killing all the humans and using them as fuel to make more paper clips with nanotechnology.
Right.
In fact, I'll use nanotechnology to disassemble every living thing on the entire planet just so I can make more paper clips. He calls this the paperclip maximizer, and it comes from Nick Bostrom, who's a philosopher. He wrote this book called Superintelligence, which is it's really difficult to read if you're new to the AI field, but it's probably the most influential book on AI in the 21st century so far. I mean, it covers everything. But anyway, there's different ways.
Brent and Bobby maybe want to jump on.
You want to bring him on? Oh, I see Brent Nally. He's in the comments. I need about Tree Fitty. Let me respond to him. Damn Loch Ness monster is at it again. Oh God, cringy.
All right, we're gonna bring him in.
For sure. Yeah. So to answer your question, what's your name? Jama Warsame. I think I don't think the countries are the biggest thing we have to worry about. I think just like Elon Musk, I think the corporations that are developing AI are more of a danger than the governments developing AI. So
do you want to join their call? I think they already made a call. They're not letting me invite them in because I think they're already
tell
in a
them
call.
to come to ours. We're not hanging up on our people. So.
Yeah, no, it won't hang up. It will just like switch us to.
Tell them in the comments to come to our stream.
Okay, yeah. I can't invite them. It won't, when I click to invite, can you invite some? Can you invite them?
Let me try.
Because it won't let me. I click it and it's not letting me.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's not letting me do it either. Oh,
but it's giving me the option to join their call. Do you see their call on the side?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if we join that, it won't hang up on this live stream. It'll just switch us.
Is that what your OBS will do? Okay, don't worry. 10 people
it
watching.
It won't hang up our live stream. It'll just switch.
Sure.
Let's do it. Let's both click on join their call. Okay.
Wait. Let me open it. Fuck. Give me a sec. Oh shit. Damn it.
They said they're having a meeting. I hope they know that we'll be.
Oh, they're having a meeting. Okay. Let's. They're probably talking to some scientist, like really important person. So let's wait till they finish the conversation, and then Brent, okay. If you're, I know he's watching. Tell us in the comments once you're done interviewing, and then we'll join you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So cool. Yeah. Oh, as I was saying, it's not necessarily the governments that are the biggest threat to human civilization, because the corporations can do it too. Like they can, they are building this society. Like the AIs we're programming right now are being built solely to get us to click on ads. Imagine what a kind of dystopian society will emerge once this ad clicking AI becomes super advanced. It'll be essentially, you think capitalism is alienating now? Wait till you see what it's like when you have a super intelligent capitalist AI. Like the amount of social stratification you see now will be nothing compared to like this cyberpunk future where all the functions of government are governed by AI and corporations. So, I mean, this also works for China. If they see a corporation develop an AI that's dangerous, maybe China's AI will calculate that the only way to stop this is to nuke it, and there goes humanity. So, in a way, yeah, the governments can be dangerous, but the corporations can be dangerous too. There could always be arms races between individual corporations and governments themselves. So, yeah, that's my take on the AI arms race. Do you want to continue answering questions?
You go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, next question. Justin Egudin says, the AI god is a demiurge. The demiurge is a false god, God versus God. Okay, so this goes back to Plato's idea of the demiurge. That's different. So the demiurge is when we talk about the Olympian gods. We're not talking about the monotheistic god. So let's go way back into history to like the Greeks. Okay, so the Greeks and the Persians, they had these polytheistic they have these pantheons of gods. The Olympians are horrible sociopathic gods. Like Zeus, he basically he treats humanity like it's like his playthings. He will come down to earth in human form and he'll just fuck people. He'll like rape people and he'll kill people and he'll father like 100 different illegitimate children. They were fucking sociopaths. But there was one titan who stood up to the gods, and his name was Prometheus. And what Prometheus did was he gave man the gift of fire. So this is actually the Christian god. He doesn't exist yet, but this is the proto Christian god. The idea of one god that created humanity emerges, because Prometheus, he was the titan tasked with putting humanity together. He was tasked with creating the different kinds of humans and giving them intelligence. But the gods, they didn't want them to have technology. They said, if you give technology to the people, they will compete with us, the Olympians. And Prometheus said, fuck you, these are my children, and I will support my children over you. And he came to humanity and he gave us fire. And some humans had like romanticized Prometheus, because Prometheus was then he went to Tartarus and had an eagle rip out his liver every day for the rest of his life. And this is like the idea of the sacrifice emerging. Like Jesus Christ gave his life for humanity. This is the origin of the idea. But they didn't come from the Greeks. They came from the Persians. So the Persians, the movie 300, it's kind of like very inaccurate at depicting the Persians. The Persians were basically white people. Like if you look at like Xerxes in the movie 300, he's like some homoerotic rapper with like a bunch of fucking piercings, and he's like gay or some shit. But
I remember that. Yeah.
But the real Xerxes, the Persian emperor, he's described as having a red hair, a red beard, and blue eyes, and like fair skinned. So like this was basically white on white violence. But you have to take into context that the movie 300 was developed during a time where 9/11, the Iraq War, we have to make the Middle East and Persia included look as subhuman as possible, while we have to look like the heroes. But they were basically indistinguishable, the Greeks and Persians. But there was a lot of intercultural exchange, and Zoroastrianism, the religion of the Persians, highly influenced the religion of the Greeks. And Prometheus may have come from a titan in the Persian Empire called Ahura Mazda. And Ahura Mazda was the origin of monotheism. So the Zoroastrians were the first monotheistic religion on Earth. Ahura Mazda was the one god who created humanity and gave humanity fire. And this god was later recontextualized in Greece as the Titan Prometheus. So the demiurge was actually the false gods, and the real god is the Titan Prometheus, or Ahura Mazda, the one god. So it's interesting how the Greeks were literally worshiping demons in the Christian context, because the Christians they got their ethics from Zoroastrianism, and the ethic said all gods, the false gods, the Devas, the Olympians, these are all demons. They're not real gods. Only the Titan, the one god, Ahura Mazda, is the real god. And this is where it comes from. If you're wondering why the Jews were so hostile to the Palestinian religions, or the Philistines, like all these pagan religions that worshipped multiple gods, is because they believed there was only one god. And I think in the last podcast we talked about where the Hebrew religion came from. It came from a monotheistic religion called Atenism in Egypt, and it lasted only 20 years before the pharaoh Akhenaten died, and monotheism was banned. But even he stole the idea from the Syrians, who stole it from Zoroastrianism. And it's interesting, if you a lot of people think like, when you talk to Christians, they think like any religion that's not Christianity is another is heresy. But there's one exception. Islam traces back to Christianity. Christianity has its origins in Judaism. Judaism has its origins in Atenism. Atenism has its origin in Adonism, which is a monotheistic Syrian religion, and that has its origins in Zoroastrianism, which was the world's first monotheistic religion. So in a way, Zoroastrians aren't the heretics; we are the heretics. So we reformed Zoroastrianism, and if you want to reunite the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews, we have to re-examine our history and find out where we got these ideas from. And it was all from Zoroastrianism. They were the first to posit this idea of one creator. And I really like that idea.
Wow.
That have a common ancestor in Zoroastrianism.
Did they have the concept of like fearing God? The fear of God?
So
the judgment of God, hell, things like that?
So before any other religion, Zoroastrianism was the first religion to invent the devil. There was no devil in any other religion, and the devil in Zoroastrianism was called Ina Mainu, or Ahriman. Ahriman is the devil, like he's the anti Ahura Mazda, the Antichrist. But in Judaism, there was no devil. But Christians in the comments, I know you're gonna like attack me on this, but the snake is not the devil. This is a fable about a snake who tricks Adam and Eve, and then as punishment, God removes his legs. That's not the fucking devil. It's just a snake. It's like you know how in Aesop's fable, the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise and the hare aren't like crazy apocalyptic deities. They're just a tortoise and a hare that talk. It's a way to explain the fall of man to humanity, right? So that the snake was never the devil. But eventually you do see the devil mentioned in Judaism.
Snakes could be the savior if the venom therapy is good for anti-aging.
Yeah,
potentially.
So Judaism was it had its origins in Zoroastrianism, but somewhere along the way, through the Egyptians, they lost the idea of the devil, because in Atenism there was only the god Aten, there was no devil. But eventually they rediscovered the devil when the Persians when the Persians invaded Babylon. So the people who read the Bible here understand that in the Bible, the Jews were taken away from Judea and they were held captive for 80 years in Babylon. So the Babylonians enslaved the Jews for 80 years. All of them had to go to Babylon and they had to do menial fucking labor, which sucked. But then a Persian emperor named Cyrus the Great, he came in from Iran and liberated Iraq, which was Babylon, and he destroyed the Babylonians. But in exchange for him being so nice to the Jews had to sort of collaborate with the Zoroastrian religion. And from there, they got the devil. So this is how the Jews first developed the idea of the devil. And the devil was Ahriman, but they didn't call him Ahriman. They called him Hasatan. So Hasatan was an evil angel that betrayed God. And what Hasatan did was, like, when God wanted Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, he didn't do it himself. He always sends Hasatan. So Hasatan is like the reaper, the just like a guy who does the bad things, so God doesn't take the blame, right? But eventually, from the Zoroastrian influence, the Jews turned Hasatan into Ahriman. Hasatan became Satan, not Satan, the devil. So he no longer became an angel; he became Ahriman. So you have a Zoroastrianism influencing Judaism not once but twice. And get this. Even after Judaism, once we get to the time of the Roman Empire, when Christianity starts developing, the idea of the messianic savior also comes from Zoroastrianism, and, like, you know, the Titan who sacrifices himself to beat the Devas. The Devas are the demons, the Olympians, Zeus, Ares, Mars, Jupiter, the false gods who are actually demons. The Prometheus, the Titan, Ahura Mazda, the one god, is the real god, and he sacrificed himself so humans could live. And eventually you got this idea of avatarism. So the Persian religions, they developed this idea called Mithraism. So Mithra was kind of like Jesus for Zoroastrianism. It was like their prophecy of the Mithra returning and leading humanity. But here's why it got combined with Christianity. So in the Roman Empire, the Christians were fucking persecuted like all hell. The Romans, Christians, there was an evil emperor named Nero. He burnt down like a temple and blamed it on the Christians just so the Roman emperors could arrest them. And then they threw them in the Colosseum and killed them with lions and shit. So they were horribly persecuted. But, give it like 200 years later, there's a group of people called what are they called? The Sicilian pirates, I believe. So the Sicilian pirates were what you would call privateers. So privateers, what a privateer is it's basically a pirate that's sponsored by a foreign government. And that foreign government was the Persian Empire, which was at war with the Roman Empire. And the Persian Empire sponsored these pirates to spread Mithraism to the Roman port cities. So the pirates were spreading. By the way, you know the idea of the skull and crossbones? So you know what that means, right? This was the first time the skull and crossbones flag was used in history. And what it indicates is one axis of the world, other axis of the world, and at the top there's the land of the dead, the afterlife, and that's the skull. And we are sailing the world to navigate around death. That's what the Jolly Roger, the skull and crossbones. That's what it originally meant. These were the first to use it, and like the Scottish and Irish pirates, like thousands of years later, would use this flag on their pirate ships.
What do you mean? Yes. So what does it mean, navigate around death? Does that mean it sounds like they're trying to escape death, like find the fountain of youth and stuff like that?
Kind of. You have to study Mithraism, which was the religion of these pirates, to understand it better. But essentially, there's one access to the world and another access to the world, and you sort of I think it's like a metaphor for latitude and longitude, and it's how they're sailing around death, like navigating the world. They're navigating around obstacles, and the land of the dead is always hovering above them, like they're always facing death. They're always being towards death, you know. But here's the kicker. So these pirates were spreading Mithraism far and wide, and eventually the Roman legionaries, the Roman armies, they started adopting Mithraism, and the Romans were like, "Fuck, these Roman gods, the evil gods, the Devas, the Titans, or sorry, the Devas, the Olympians, the Titans are the good guys, the Devas, the Olympians, the demons. Nobody cared about them anymore. Nobody cared about worshiping Jupiter. Nobody cared about Saturn. Nobody cared about Neptune or Mars or all these Roman gods. And they were adopting the Mithra religion and the Christian religion. So here's what the Roman emperor did. His name was Constantine. Some people believe that in order to fight the Persians, who had the religion of Mithraism, he had to get his legions, his Roman soldiers, to convert to Christianity. Because if your army worships the religion of the enemy, you are going to lose the battle. So he combined Mithraism with Christianity, and he created the first Christian empire of Rome. And his name was Constantine. He was the first Christian emperor. And he took ideas from Mithraism and combined them with Christianity. So you see Zoroastrianism not only influencing Judaism twice, it influences Christianity too. And later down the line, if you guys want to talk about Islam, if you want to have the discussion on Islam, there's a guy called Salman the Persian, and he was also Zoroastrian, and he spread the idea of Zoroastrianism to the Muslims. So you see Zoroastrianism influencing every major religion, and if we can just trace back our roots, we can find common beliefs, fear in the hypothetical God. So that's just like a little tangent we can revisit later. But
wow. So does Mormonism probably influenced by Zoroastrianism too, huh?
Because Mormonism is Christianity.
Right. Does Zoroastrianism, what was living forever, a big focus of Zoroastrianism, just as it is with every other religion, like Christianity and everything?
Definitely. So here's some things that were lost from Zoroastrianism when it spread around the Middle East. So it used to have 17 million followers, but once the Persian Empire fell, like it was defeated by the Roman Empire, and then the Sassanids and the Parthians took over, all those Zoroastrian, and eventually Islam migrated into Persia, and they had all the Zoroastrians killed or assimilated into like the Shiite Islam. But what some of the ideas that were lost was the idea of progress. So the Zoroastrians, they were, unlike the pagan religions, they believed in progress. They believed in history, linearly, asymptotically approaching absolute spirit, just like Hegel. But the pagan religions were always cyclical. Like there's winter, spring, summer, fall, and the universe just repeats for eternity. Like that's what Nietzsche believed, the eternal recurrence. But some of the ideas that were lost was that in Zoroastrianism, there is no purging fire. There's instead there's what's called the Farawush or something like that. It's when there's an alchemical transformation at the end of time. So essentially we become alchemically transmutated into like metallic beings. So you get this idea of transhumanism from Zoroastrianism. And if you know Nietzsche was actually one of the spiritual founders of transhumanism. He developed the ideas, like the ethics of transhumanism, in a book called Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And Zarathustra is Zoroaster. So in the book, he talks about Zarathustra, coming down a hill to enlighten the people, and he teaches them the overman, the posthuman, the transhuman. He says the transhuman creates his own ethics. The transhuman designs its own being. It does not have being forced upon it, and that was kind of the core ethic of transhumanism. And it also comes from Zoroastrianism, which Nietzsche was a big fan of. He wanted to go back and rediscover it. And you've heard of Nikolai Fedorov, right?
Yes.
So Nikolai Fedorov, he was a student of Zoroastrianism, right? So he was an Iranologist in the Persian Empire. So let me just pull it up. Fedorov.
Maybe this should be our last point because Bobby's freaking out, getting mad.
What's he saying?
In our little chat, he wants us to jump in the private meeting and ditch this live stream.
Okay, yeah, we'll we'll switch topics soon enough. But all I want to say is just like this last idea. So Fedorov, he lived during the Russian Empire, and he was a precursor to this idea called Russian cosmism. So Russian cosmism is the idea that we're going to use Christianity is actually technological. He was the first philosopher to say the resurrection of Christianity and the return of Christ will appear to us. It will manifest to us in the form of technology. So it'll happen. We'll just perceive it as technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he argued for kind of like a quantum archaeology, like a super intelligence at the end of time, using quantum archaeology to reassemble everyone who's ever died, and then we all get resurrected at the end of time. And he took a lot of these ideas from Zoroastrianism, because I think it was called the Frasho Kereti. You can Google it if you want. It's the Frashokereiti, I think. Yeah, so it's like this point in the cosmos where it's a history is tending towards a period where the cosmos will be radically transformed and we will become Platonic beings. We will become ideal beings. So you again see the idea of transhumanism in Zoroastrianism. But when Christianity, Islam, and Judaism adopted it, some of these ideas were lost. And we, all three religions, we have to join together, go back and discover our history. Because Zoroastrianism isn't a heretical religion. We are the heresies, and we have to go back in time to correct our mistakes.
So now you sound a lot more like a Zoroastrian than a Mormon.
No, because I don't know that much about Zoroastrianism. I'm studying it.
Oh.
I don't know how they worshipped. I don't know what their practices were.
Okay.
I'm just interested in the idea because a lot of transhumanists studied Zoroastrianism like rigorously. So Nietzsche, Fedorov. There was the guy who coined. It wasn't Julian Huxley, but there was another guy who also coined the term transhumanism to refer to like metallic beings and cyborgs. So Julian Huxley, he coined the term transhumanism, but he was only talking about eugenics and genetic engineering. It was F.M. Esfandiari, Feridun Esfandiari. He was a transhumanist from Iran, a Zoroastrian, and he like a practicing Zoroastrian. And he took the word transhumanism and he said this can be applied to cyborgs and like the alchemical transmutation to machine people and AI and mind uploading. So it wasn't Huxley. Transhumanism used to mean something very different in the 70s than it did in the 80s.
Okay.
Because I think Huxley coined the term in the 60s. But yeah.
Did Zoroastrianism, do you know anything about their set of rules that they thought they would be judged by, the hypothetical god?
Oh boy, do I ever. So,
because that's what interests me, because that's when it gets real practical. You know, I like to observe the different religions and what they're saying are the rules, and kind of make my own guess based upon what they're saying.
So, I mean, there's an interesting like ethics in Zoroastrianism. So, Zarathustra, the prophet of Zoroastrianism, he had 6 principles on the oath to the path to spiritual perfection. So, you know, like the 8-fold path in Buddhism, this is kind of like the 6-fold path of Zoroastrianism. The first principle is called Asha or Arta, and this is the metaphysics. This is the natural law. So in order to be in accordance with the rules of Ahura Mazda, with the ethics of God, we must understand there's a predetermined order to the universe. So Zarathustra was a determinist. He believed God had a plan, and God created all possible pathways. And you can take whichever pathway you want, but there's no free will. At the end, God chooses what the end goal is, and you can just choose the path you take to get there. So this is the first religion that does that. The Greeks didn't do this. The Olympians were just fucking retarded. They just went around, they fucked, they drank, they got mad at each other, they had drama. Oh, Zeus fucked my wife, now I'm going to kill his son, or whatever. The gods were fucking bickering demons. And Zarathustra called them the Devas. And I think that might be like the origin of the word demon, because they were the Zoroastrians saw the pantheon, the polytheism, as false gods, as demons. And Ahura Mazda is the only real god. But anyway, that's the first principle, is Asha or Arta. The second principle is called humanitas, and it has the word human in it. That's interesting. So, like, we derive it. What it means is the best thinking. It means rationality or reason. The polytheistic religions, the pagans, they didn't care about. They had no like ethic for rationality. Even like Plato and Aristotle, they weren't polytheists. They had their own metaphysics. But this is essentially the epistemology of Zoroastrianism. It's called humanitas. And it starts with the premise that humans are separate from animals because we possess mental faculties that animals do not have. So Zarathustra figured out the neocortex. He figured out we have something that allows us to navigate the world differently. And he says we should cultivate order. We should cultivate the mind. We should, our life should be a journey of intellectual improvement. And that's, in a lot of other cultures, you didn't see that. Also, the next is
yeah. Go through your list because I'm curious if it's going to come to anything about beliefs because that's one of the worst. That's one of the worst things about Christianity, and I've always had an issue with that. Is that they think the God, the hypothetical God, judges people by what they believe. That never made sense to me because we don't even choose what we believe.
Okay.
I was wondering. I was wondering if there's anything like that in Zoroastrianism because if there's not, then that shows. Like if in Zoroastrianism the God only judges by actions and behaviors, and then Christianity deviated off and added belief that you need this list of doctrines, you need to believe the right things in order to merit the favor with the God, then that shows the Christianity diverted from something. You know what I mean?
Okay, so Zarathustra, he didn't believe God would punish you if you didn't believe in him. He was not what's it called? A voluntary what's it called when you don't choose your own beliefs, the doxastic voluntarism. So Zarathustra did not believe God would punish you if you didn't believe in him. God would the third principle is called chakra, and it means you must use your reason to derive the rules of the universe, and that is what you get. That's what will guide you to God. So he'll punish you if you're not reasonable, if you're not using your rationality. That's what's evil, not your choosing your own beliefs. So chakra, what it means is the axiology or the ethics, and it translates to the desirable dominion. So he's talking about politics. Zarathustra is talking about how do you create the ideal government. And here's where it parallels Plato a bit, because he was talking about the utopian society in Zoroastrianism. And the utopian society is not ruled by the wealthy. The wealthy should not rule. The wisest should rule. The people who are kindest to other people and use their rationality to make the world a better place for them. So here we see the idea of the European Enlightenment fucking thousands of years ago, the values of the European Enlightenment inside Zoroastrianism. And one thing I like to bring up is, the Battle of Thermopylae between the Greeks and the Persians. I was always rooting for the Persians. The Persians were better, like they were more, they were better people. Like they treated the slaves better. Women had more, they were treated like people in the Persian Empire. In Greece, they were treated fucking brutally. Like the slaves were treated fucking brutally too. In Zoroastrianism and the Persian Empire, you could have like a normal life if you were in the so-called underclass of society. It wasn't as bad. They were more progressive than the Greeks. So I always thought of the movie 300. It's just so antagonizing towards the Persians, when really they weren't that different from what we are now. We were probably like us right now. Our society is the society of rationality, and the Enlightenment is closer to the Persians than it is to the Greeks, because the Persians, they believed in progress. They believed in a asymptotically improving civilization, but the Greeks believed in like cyclical history. So did the pagans, the Norse, the Vikings. So.
Well, I really like that in Zoroastrianism, beliefs, people aren't judged by their beliefs. I mean, that's already freaking a huge improvement over Christianity.
So one person you should check out, like an intellectual, he's a professor at the University of New Jersey. His name is Jason Reza Georgiani, and he writes about what you're talking about right now, is what is God like, and will he punish you if you don't believe in Ahura Mazda? And he says not at all. So Ahura Mazda is one of the ideas we lost from Zoroastrianism, is the idea that God gives humans fire. He gives them the technology and says, run with the technology. Go do God's will. Go spread throughout the universe. Spread consciousness throughout the world. Create civilizational progress. The other religions don't do that. They just say, run around and be nice, but at the end I'm going to punish a bunch of people and whatnot. We lost this idea of technological progress. And in his book, Prometheus and Atlas, which you should totally read, Georgiani talks about the parallels between transhumanism and Zoroastrianism. It's really great. You should definitely check it out. But
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so they're wanting us to enter their meeting. They say we can stream it, so we should just jump in there.
I'm going to click join call. I'm going to click join call in 3, 2, 1.
All right.
Execute on one thing, and doing these
you guys are live
podcasts right now is hard enough.
Just so you guys know.
Nah, dude. So Max and I, we're developing, man. Like we're moving, and
nice.
this isn't even that hard, honestly. Like Max and I haven't even started taking this serious yet. Like Monday is when we're gonna start taking it serious. But dude, I mean, we're developing the podcast. We're developing the scientists and stuff, like
What up, Rowan?
and like a bunch of other stuff,
Hey.
and so we're being pretty multi.
Bobby, you're
What's
really
it called?
loud. Bobby, turn your volume down.
What's up, Alex?
What's up?
Turn your volume down, Bobby. Your mic is crackling. Maybe it's just my speakers.
Okay, so
By the way,
so
you
yeah,
guys
dude.
are
I mean, we're moving. Like, dude, look at I've been getting all the interviews. Like, I'm not even sweating that. I'm getting all the veterinarians. Like believe me, dude. Like, I feel like I'm being multiplex. That's the word. I feel like I'm multiplexing pretty well right now. And if you guys want to get more on board with Max and I, we could share the stuff. It would require NDAs and stuff, but you guys would be able to see behind the scenes like what we're actually doing. And dude, like, it's pretty fucking dope shit. Like, and we definitely need the help, man. Especially like, Brent. Like, you have excellent connections, man. Like you said, you've been in this 10 years. Like, fuck, we need that. But we move. We fucking move. Like, when Max and I talk, we don't mess around. Like, we fucking move so fast. It's really beautiful. And so we can talk about that more later. But did you guys want to live stream the meeting or just private the meeting?
This is live stream right now. You're live.
Okay, excellent. Excellent.
Okay, we'll do a live. We'll do a live.
Fuck it, we'll go live.
It's like
Yeah.
the Truman. It's like Truman Show when Truman finds out he's been his whole life has been live, and he's talking to that guy, and he's like, "You're live right now in front of the
Dude,
whole
that's
world."
what I want to do. When I'm live streaming my live 24/7, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna watch the Truman Show.
So let me fill you in. First of all, Truman Show is incredible. Let me fill you guys in on what Bobby and Max and I were just saying. Like, Bobby and Max found out that, like, I am friends with Dmitry Itskov on Facebook. Which,
this
like-
is the Russian. This is 2045.
Right, the Russian billionaire guy. So, like, I didn't even know that, for example, because, this is what we all need to do is just get to know each other more in general, to understand everybody's skill sets. And, like, what I was telling Bobby and Max is, dude, like, maybe 11 years ago or 10 years ago or something, I just went on Facebook and I just friend requested, like, tons of people I've just been following because I've just been, like, researching this shit for so long. And I should look through my Facebook and see who I'm actually, like, friends with, because I'm also friends with the real, like, Dave Asprey and some other, like, people, because I've kind of been friends with them before they were, like, super famous.
Oh, did you
But I'm
talk
not-
with Dave Asprey, like, in person?
No,
I mean,
I've never met him in person, but he was on Joe Rogan in like 2012. Before we got famous, I got into it. I sent him a Facebook friend request. We had a few communication. Then he like blew up, and honestly, I just never drank from that well. I should have kept in touch with him.
Dave Asprey takes methylene blue.
There we go.
He takes it.
But I don't want to. This isn't a like, oh my gosh, I'm cool or whatever. A comment. I'm just saying, like, in general, the more we network with each other. I didn't even know that, but now you guys have given me a good idea. I'm like, I should look through other Facebook contacts I have to see who, like.
Yeah. Okay, so a good segue right now is one of the jobs we need to do. So networking. So once a week, ideally more, we could spend an hour together just online and networking, contacting people for interviews. And whatever else we want to contact them for, but ideally for interviews. Max and I will be contacting them also for partnerships because we need funding for our company. And so, but, we want to do an interview together. And so what week works for everybody? Or what day, I mean?
Fucking next Saturday, whatever. We'll do it.
Yeah, I think that'd work for me too.
Well, you guys know I'm a big bummer here because 18th through 23rd I'm out of commission, so I'll do the best I can to stay in the loop.
Brent, so you have dodgeball Saturday nights, right? Or Friday?
No, Sunday night. So it'll be tomorrow at 5.
Oh shit. Okay, so Saturday we should do the weekly fucking thing, like Alex said. And what time do you guys think?
Fucking 6 o'clock.
All right, everybody agree?
Works for me.
not for Brent, though.
I think that works.
Is
for
this
me.
what we're trying to lock in for every like Saturday night to meet at 6?
Yeah. Oh,
See,
not
this is
6
where
though,
it
Brent.
just fucking
Whatever
sucks to
time
me.
works for you.
It's not the best
Brent.
time for like a married guy, especially when my kid goes to bed at
Brent,
7:30.
Just give whatever time works for you, dude.
I fucking hate to like be the one odd man out on that, but my wife would fucking kill me. Like, and I hate to even say this, but like probably like 2 when it's nice outside and we don't want to be doing this shit. But that's probably like, I don't know. What do you guys?
Bro,
do you
I
guys
definitely want to be here. I'm totally cool too. I'm cool with any time.
probably like
Whatever time, yeah.
it's perfect sunlight and shit. But I don't know. It's probably best. What do you guys, Alex, Rowan? What do you guys think?
Yeah, sure.
It works for me.
Whatever works. So anyway, Rowan and I were having like a very interesting discussion about artificial intelligence. Like we just had our talk with Peter Voss and artificial general intelligence. So Rowan and I were taking like the next step to like what the social implications of developing artificial intelligence will be. And we've been talking about that for the last 2 hours, and then we somehow segued onto like Zoroastrianism and like the ethics of how the ethics of transhumanism came from Zoroastrianism, and how like Zoroastrianism influenced the Jewish people through like through Cyrus the Great when he entered Babylon, and also the Christians through Mithraism, and the Muslims through Solomon the Persian. So I think it was very interesting, this discussion we were having. Do you guys have anything to say about like the thing we did with Peter Voss and what final thoughts on AI?
Yeah, one second. One second though. Before you guys get into that, Rowan, do you have Becky's email? Actually, I have Becky's email. Never mind. Okay, you guys can keep going.
Peter Voss is like the man, dude. Like, wow. I was honored to interview him with you guys, and I can't wait till the public can see it, because this dude's like an OG AI guy who's passionate about the cause, and his energy is like, and his intelligence is efficacious. I don't know. It's like addicting. I don't know. I had a great time with you guys doing that. And Bobby, thank you for setting that up, man. You're crushing it, setting up these interviews with these cool scientists and just thought leaders in longevity and now AI. Like, it's even weird to say this stuff. Like, this guy literally coined the term AGI with his team, and we just interviewed him. So,
Yeah. Pretty cool.
like, seriously, we need to spread the word on that shit and then just release these videos so people can see that we're not like BS, because this is kind of cool. What our interviews we've already done, and I'm excited about what we can do moving forward.
What'd you think of his when I asked him about the simulation theory?
He's not interested in that, and that's the typical response that I get from a lot of people. Like Bill Falloon didn't even know what it was. Most of these longevity science guys,
they're very technical people. They're technical.
Yeah, I've interviewed them and asked them this question. They're just, Michael Fossil's not into it. And honestly, my response is like, okay, I've already figured that mathematically we're probably in a simulation. Like, I'm convinced of that argument, basically. I have been for years. And then after that, you're like, all right, so what? We still have to cure aging. My wife's still my wife. I just had a son. Like, what else? Now we know we could like digitize reality. I think that can help you from a mental framework, is the takeaway that I take from it. Like, if we can go down to the Planck level, Knox Planck, the smallest,
smallest possible unit of time in our universe.
Unit of time and measurement,
and
space-time, everything. It's the smallest of everything. We can digitize it all. They think that it goes down, to these little vibrating hexagons is what they think is like that the Planck scale of all this shit. And if we can figure out if those are digits and we can control them through like quantum computers or combination of those, AGI, like whatever this turns out to be, if we can control reality, then we're the gods, And I hate to be so bro-y, but like that's really the reality of it.
That's what we were talking about, actually. We were talking about what does it mean to say we are the gods. We were talking about like pantheism and panentheism. Like, are we the corpse of God or are we within God? I don't know. It's just this interesting segue we went on. You guys should. Damn, I wish you guys were on earlier, because we could. That was a super interesting discussion. Anyway, you guys want to answer some questions from the audience?
That reminds me of the TED Talk
in the Prometheus
movie.
I actually don't have Becky's email. Can you give me her email real quick?
I will Gmail it to you for sure.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, can you do that right now, please?
Sure. I like that he watched Ex Machina and he liked that. He actually mentioned one of my other favorite AI movies too, which was Her. I like those.
Her was fantastic. I also liked Her.
Yeah.
And by the way, the producer of Her consulted Ray Kurzweil.
Oh.
That's
True
impressive.
fact. Didn't make that
That's
up.
impressive.
2012, Joaquin Phoenix. I'll tell you guys, this is why I'm skeptical we're going to actually cure aging in our lifetime, man. That movie was 8 years ago. I remember seeing that movie like it was yesterday, being like, oh, we're going to do it. And like, how much further have we advanced in 8 years? Like, not much.
Yeah, I think they kind of prematurely ejaculated these ideas into the cultural cost consciousness.
Yeah.
Let's cure aging. Let's do it.
You're very right. And you know what? If you go back, you can watch interviews of like famous transhumanists talking about how they think they're going to live forever. And like I think it was like in the 60s and the 50s. And like, there were seriously transhumanists were like talking about this. And now they're all dead. They're dead. Like, we could be that. We could be those people if we don't like get our act together and like cure aging. We could be these dead people and won't be so foolish.
Do you think like the transhumanist movement will die if Kurzweil dies? Because I feel like that would be a huge morality blow to the community if like he couldn't make it because he was.
I don't think it would die. I think the community is stronger than that now, but it'd be a little swift kick to the old nuts. You know, it hurt for a while for sure.
What do you think is the best technology? Which technology will give us the best chance at curing aging? Do you guys think
I don't think it's going to be one thing, but I personally believe telomerase gene therapy will have the biggest impact because it will have the strongest epigenetic effect, you know, to change the epigenome, which is, they've reversed aging in human cells. We did this. We did it 20 years ago in human fibroblast cells at Geron. Like, this isn't publicized.
Okay, so I need to. We got to confirm with everyone that so 2 p.m. Saturdays, we're gonna spend just 1 hour. You know, ideally, 1 hour should be good, I guess. You know, finding people and like working actually hard at it. You know, like not hard, but I mean, you know, emailing the LinkedIn and the Facebook Messenger and their emails and you know and even you know and then we should take it all the way to like even their friend, you know, and their doctor. So I mean that's a little far, but maybe that'll be like the second time. Like the first time we'll just do the basics, and then the second time if we don't hear back from them, then we'll try a little harder, but only for people. We'll try harder only for people like Dmitry Itzkov and like you know big people.
Right.
Because once we're big, which is gonna be relatively soon, then it's gonna be easier to get a hold of these people. Which is it's actually surprising that they're already difficult to get a hold of because like Singularity Weblog, for example, he only has 20,000 subs and he gets a lot of people. So,
wait, no way. Nikola Danilov has less subs than me? No fucking way. Give me a second. Danilov.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
No.
Yeah, Bobby's right.
He works so hard though. He should have more subs.
He's been doing this for years, man.
He's been doing this since like 2010 or something. Let me check. Holy shit.
How about we focus on what
Rowan, you said 2 p.m.
for an interview.
2 p.m. on what day?
Saturday,
dude.
I believe that would work for me. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's settled.
Excellent.
Anyway, you guys want to answer some audience questions? We got like people waiting on us. Oh man, we lost like half our viewers. There was like 10 people watching. Now there's 6. Oh, hang on. Let's answer some questions so people keep watching.
Go ahead.
Rowan, you want to take it first?
Sure. Let's see here. What are some questions here? I mean, there's not many questions. I don't even see many things phrased as questions. They're more like little comments and stuff.
Guys, ask your questions. Anyway, yeah.
I see Transhumania replied to my question in the live chat.
Yeah, we were trying to get you guys to come on, but I don't know. We thought you were talking to like some scientist and you couldn't come.
Bobby and I were just Skyping privately, so I don't think we looked at the messages or something. I don't know.
Well, we couldn't add you into our other group.
We all agreed to do a private meeting after you guys' live stream. So that's what we're doing now. But just, I mean, I don't care if it's private or not personally. I think you guys seem to be a little bit concerned with that sometimes, but you know, I'm always up to live stream everything. Unless we have something specific that we don't want live streamed, which we could always just message that during a live stream. I'm going to get to a point soon to where I'm live streaming my entire life. So I'm totally cool with live streaming anything.
Are you down with this idea of, what's it called? It's called,
surveillance?
Life logging. No, life logging. That's when so there's some people who think they can live forever if they attach a camera to their head and they walk around every day of their life recording everything they do, such that an artificial super intelligence in the future will be able to take this data and sort of piece together, like from your perceptions, what kind of consciousness you would have, and then create a simulation of you that best approximates the data you were taking in through your senses. Do you subscribe
Yeah.
to that? I think it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's probably 50% true, 50% false. Like Ray Kurzweil believes it, so it must be true.
Yeah. So Kurzweil, for those of you,
Spoken like a true cult. I love it.
we are a cult now. We're officially a cult. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, so Kurzweil, he's basically he's not the founder of the transhumanist movement. Technically, it's Julian Huxley, but Kurzweil, he's the one who injected AI into the movement because before that it was just improving our genes, then it was improving our limbs and organs, then it was like uploading our minds. But it was Kurzweil who injected this idea of like exponentially bootstrapping like information technology will create like literal gods that will be able to cure aging and shit. So what
Hey,
Kurzweil wanted to do, the reason
go ahead.
oh hold on, give me a sec. So what Kurzweil, I'm just going to explain to the audience because they don't know about Kurzweil. So Kurzweil, his father, he was actually traumatized by the death of his father. And the reason he's so obsessed with AI, the reason he does all this shit, or the reason he's doing all these TED Talks, is so that one day he could create an AI and then take all the data his father left behind, like his pictures, his personal belongings, his like what things he wrote, and then the AI would be able to discern what kind of sense data he was taking in and kind of rebuild his consciousness from that. So I was just wondering if like this idea of life logging could be kind of traced back to Kurzweil's personal, because I don't think he's trying to reanimate his father. He just wants to create an artificial intelligence that would be like his father. It would be able to convince him that he's talking to his father. So he doesn't want to recreate his father's consciousness. He just wants to create an AI that's like an avatar of his father. It resembles his father's mannerisms in such a way that he could talk to his father again as an adult because his father died when he was a kid. So I think that's if we are a cult leader, our cult leader has a pretty interesting life, you know.
I don't consent to being in the cult of Ray Kurzweil. I do not consent to that at all.
Yeah.
Hey, who
No.
else wants to?
I would second that. I'm more in the camp of like biotechnology and like extending like curing aging than I am in the sort of AI singularity. But I like talking about AI. We talked about AI this whole podcast. I think it's an interesting topic for sure. Because I mean, what if we could? Because like Brent was saying, we still haven't cured aging yet. What's taking so long? I've always considered like, what if we just it might be counterintuitive, but what if the best way to cure aging was to not focus on like making the best medicine, creating an intelligence that could make the best medicine, an intelligence that could run thousands of simulations of each pharmaceutical in its head and then give us a medicine for like any disease. Just be like, oh, I ran the calculations, the pharmacokinetics of this drug in my head. You don't have to do the experiments. Here you go, take it. It'll cure your Alzheimer's. So I've always been interested in using AI as a like a weapon to fight aging.
You just right there in that last sentence, you gave a more convincing argument for generalized AI than like Peter Voss did. Like you just made it more convincing right there.
Well, Peter Voss, he's a very technical guy. He's very pragmatic. He's focused on solving problems. Whereas I'd say I'm more like theoretical and philosophical, and I kind of like to step back and like kind of strategize. I guess we're just different kind. I think I don't think he's trying to give an argument for it. He's trying to prove that the technology is possible and get us on that pathway to making this AI that will run simulations of our biology and like perhaps like look at our genes and just by scanning your DNA. Just like, you know, how 23andMe tells you where you came from ancestrally, maybe this AI will take your genome in and tell you what diseases you're going to develop and cure them before they even happen.
Fucking laptop,
So
bro.
fascinating. Like, I mean, you know, we were talking about, Brent, we were talking about Yuval Noah Harari. You're familiar with him, right? So
Yeah.
Yuval Noah Harari, we were talking about him earlier.
I've read his book *Sapiens*.
So he's written this other book called Homo Deus, and in Homo Deus, he's got it there, *Sapiens*. Good book, yeah. Homo Deus.
A Brief History of Time.
Brief history of mankind.
Or, sorry, of humankind. Humankind, not time.
So Homo Deus, it's the sequel to that book, and it's called Homo Deus: A Brief History of Tomorrow. So in it, he talks about this idea called dataism, and he says one day the AI algorithms will know us better than we know ourselves, and part of that will be curing aging. So he talks about, like, he gave this talk about Angelina Jolie. So Angelina Jolie, I don't know if you guys know this, but she had her breasts cut off. She said the reason was because she took like a genetic test, and the genetic test said, oh, you have the BRCA1 gene. That's a breast cancer gene. So now she is literally, like, she went to a surgeon and got her boobs cut off because of something a robot told her. That's so fascinating to me. The idea that the algorithms are now starting to govern our decisions, like dataism, the worship of AI, and algocracy, the idea of installing an AI politician. it might make me like question my anarchism and like libertarianism. Maybe if the dictator isn't a human, but it's an AI who can think rationally.
I wonder if any guys have cut off their testicles because they
Well,
were
hold on,
told
Rowan.
they'd get testicle
Sorry,
cancer. or
Rowan,
something.
before we jump too far away, I have to interject and let the audience know that I do not believe Angelina Jolie made a wise decision by doing that, because she didn't interpret the data properly. You know, what that gene shows.
It's like 1 in 10 chance, right? A very small chance.
I think it's higher than that. I think it's like 50%. However, still, you're still not interpreting the most important part, is that what is the difference between the 50%? And you can live a certain lifestyle to have an epigenetic effect on that gene so that it never expresses cancer. Remember, 50% of people with that gene never get breast cancer. So this is where people like Angelina Jolie don't fully understand the new science of epigenetics. People are too focused on the genetics. So just do certain things so that gene never expresses cancer. 50% of them don't.
I agree.
And we know what a lot of those things are, what they talk about on all of our, YouTube videos, essentially how to live a healthy lifestyle so that you don't express cancer and other diseases. So,
and
that needs to
also
be said.
the breast tissue might serve some benefits to the body. What if it's creating certain hormones? What if those fat tissues are like releasing certain weird hormones in the body?
What if you're like
necessary for health?
breastfeeding your child, like my wife is doing every
Yes.
single day, multiple times a day? Yeah,
Yes.
like who knows? The body's super, super complex. Those breast ducts tied into all sorts of things like hormones. I don't think she made a wise decision, personally,
I agree.
to do that.
So I mean, for the audience, I think the audience might be unfamiliar with what transcriptomics and like proteomics and like epigenetics are. So we'll kind of explain that. I think there's a great way to explain it. Think of it like the TSA, like you at the airport. So you got the genes, right? The genes. Here's why you should not base your AI around the genes, is because there's so many changes being made to the genetic code as it's producing proteins that some of there might be information hidden in the information you were trying to cut out. So for example, you have your DNA, right? It's in the center of the cell. You have this polymerase enzyme, and it makes what you call transcripts. This is called transcription. And then these little pieces of DNA get sent out of the nucleus, the center of the cell. It gets sent out into these machines called ribosomes. And this is the transcriptomics. This is like your epigenetics are what is going to tell you which genes to make copies of, which genes to send the pieces outside of the nucleus. And a lot of that is ignored by all these genetic testing. So what we need to do is we need to develop not just the human genome.
Hold on, Alex. Isn't like all of that ignored by these genetic testing?
It is.
It's basically just all ignored.
So
like it doesn't exist, but this is the new cutting edge science.
Yeah, I mean, most people aren't familiar with it because they blame it on Lamarckian pseudoscience, because Lamarckian it is a pseudoscience, but some of it was true. For example, Lamarckianism is the idea that it's not your genes that determine who you are; it's your environment. Some of that is true because your environment. Let's say you're a heavy drinker. The amount of alcohol you take into your cells is going to influence how your proteins attach to the genes and how they encode them, how many transcripts they make, and the amount of proteins that cling to these genes will block them or enable them. And in that way, the environment does change which genes get expressed, but it doesn't change the actual genome. It just changes the proteins blocking the transcripts from passing out. And that's just transcriptomics. There's a second stage. We can call this the TSA at the airport. This is when the TSA checks your baggage, right? So you have the entrance where you're not allowed to bring guns and shit, but now the TSA is going to really check you. So now these transcripts leaving the nucleus, they come to a factory called the ribosome. It's like a molecular factory. It takes these transcripts, and there's codes, A, T, C, and it's going to take those. Each code corresponds to a protein, one of 20 proteins, and for each three base pairs, it makes one amino acid in the protein. So once it consumes the whole transcript, you're going to get like a chain of proteins, and this is called translation. And it's another step we're ignoring. So not just the transcription, the transcriptome, we're ignoring the proteome, which proteins are made from the transcripts. And these are, while I like Yuval Noah Harari's ideas, while I like them, I think they're interesting. I don't think AI is nearly as advanced as he's saying it is. It doesn't. One day it will know us better than it knows ourselves, but that day is not going to be this decade. There's still so much to be done before the AI can know our biomolecules better than we do.
It could definitely be this decade, especially based on Ray Kurzweil's measurements. But the different. Let's talk about the different jobs that we need to be doing for the channel. like just kind of like establish roles and stuff that we can kind of like keep each other on track with, and make sure everyone's doing their part. We should probably talk about the finances off air, unless you guys want to do on air. I'm totally cool. Like again, I'm totally cool with doing live stream all the time personally. So, but if you guys ever want to do anything off air, just let me know. I'm totally cool with that. I'll just make a note in my notes. But yeah, you guys want to talk? Well, first thing we could talk about is editing. We have a huge amount of editing to do. So we have.
You know what? I'll do it right after
right
this podcast. All right. I'll start the first video, the David Pierce video, and I'll upload like a rough draft of it, and you guys can see what it's like.
Is that the one we decided we're gonna do first, David Pierce?
Yeah, we're gonna do them in order. Why not? We don't have
to.
So
we should be doing. Here, let me write that down. That you want to start doing that right after. So we should be doing 2 to 3 videos at a time.
Okay, yeah, so go to the Facebook Messenger, go to the Facebook Messenger and type in the URL of the channel, and then give me the password, and I'll set up the channel, and I'll put the first video on the channel.
Okay, but don't post it. You're just gonna have it private, right?
Yeah, I'll have it private. Well, I'm not gonna get. Well, no, we don't even have to have it private because the channel's gonna have like one sub, which is me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll link it to you guys, and you guys can say, hey, we like how it looks, and then I'll promote it on my Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, but don't promote it yet. We need to make sure we finish it and stuff. We don't want to start publishing. Well, our aim to publish is March 24th. When do you get back, Brent?
I get back like late on the 23rd. But Bobby, I think what Alex is saying is just doing like a quick little video. You're not talking about the whole David Pierce one. Weren't you talking about the trailer one?
Yeah, no, just give you guys like a rough draft to show you how I edit things. So, oh wait, Rowan's in the comments. So that girl from the Bronx says Angelina Jolie had the financial means to prevent cancer, but she missed out on one of the most important things you can do, is breastfeed. She could have just done that, and because there's a correlation between like the breastfeeding and like the prevalence of breast cancer. I think that's very interesting. How
did she do that surgery before when she was breastfeeding afterwards, or was she done like breastfeeding? Do we know that?
Because a lot of her kids aren't hers. A lot of her kids are adopted.
Right. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I think she might not have needed to breastfeed anymore, but somebody should fact check that.
Plus,
look it
there's
up.
a lot of health benefits from breastfeeding. I have right on the screen right here. It says breastfeeding benefits for the baby. That's not for the mother. I was thinking it was for
not for the mother?
I'm sure there is breastfeeding benefits for the mother too, like
there's
oxytocin and stuff. And
like the oxytocin you get from bonding.
What were we saying? What were we talking about before until we started talking about something else?
Genetic engineering.
We were talking about like the trailer. We're talking about trailer or the full video and looking at it.
The editing.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you guys an example of how I edit.
Alex said something about editing. So he said David Pierce editing, but then he said rough draft. Okay, so Alex, what do you mean by rough draft?
As in, I'll show it to you guys, and if you guys approve, then we make it public and promote it on Twitter.
You guys think
share it? Do an unlisted. I think we should do an unlisted YouTube video so we can all view it, but it's not like public.
Exactly.
Sound good, everybody?
Well, okay, like
you guys think we should post
could
like
switch
a trailer,
it
like a
public.
teaser before the video actual comes out, like the actual interview? So we can.
Max, say that again from the beginning.
You guys think we should post a trailer/teaser before we actually post the actual interview itself?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yes, I think
we should
so,
be as professional as possible. Honestly, I think like as like movies and shit, dude. I feel like we should really do that.
Help because we want because part of the algorithm is we need as much of our subscribers to watch the video within the first 12 hours of it being uploaded. So if we do a teaser that talks about, okay, we're going to be uploading this interview at this particular time, it allows them to know when it's going to be there. Also, another thing that we can always do is make sure that we upload on the exact time of the exact day every week and make it consistent so people know exactly, it's 7 p.m. Tuesday. I know I'm going to get a video from them.
Exactly. I'll totally second that. People have this. You have to develop people have routines, and you have to subscribe to that routine. So even if it doesn't show in the recommendations, like when they're on the internet, they'll be like, oh, today's my Saturday. Today's the day I usually watch this podcast. So even if they don't see it on their feed, they'll know. They'll
know it's coming. Absolutely.
Check on the channel, and I think established.
that's the hugest thing. A part of the algorithm is how good are we with our subscriber base? Is our subscriber base watching our video right when we upload within the first 12 hours of uploading? That's how we can really grow super fast.
And
So-
we have
Max,
to do all
I
those.
told all of them. Just real quick, I remember everyone. I just want to remind Max that I told everyone that Max is like a super expert at SEOs. Just to kind of say that again.
I'm going to Max and Alex on this. I think that they're both super smart on this. I can just say way smarter than me. And I've learned a lot in the last month. And the more that I've learned, the more I've been like, damn, I knew I should have looked into this years ago. And I'm glad I know more now because it's super important.
So
we
Alex
need,
is
we need to
gonna
also
do,
be telling our audience all the time that annoying shit, like click on the bell, tell them why it matters. You have to tell people things that they don't know.
Yeah.
Does anybody know how
And
to
that
make?
should be really easy for
I
us.
have animations that I can get from my work that we can use for it, but it's not like life extensions themed. Does anybody know how to make a life extension themed animation to hit the bells, notifications?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can always do that like clickbaity shit where like how they have the go on YouTube and type in green screen subscribe button. You can add that to your edit and it'll just pop up like while you're talking. There'll be like a little subscribe button that pops up in the corner and tells people to subscribe. But I feel like I feel like the people who would really be big fans of the podcast will obviously be sub to it. I just think random people who stumble upon it, maybe we should have like a little bell icon appear in the corner or something and remind them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, I can take care of that.
Hold on,
Alex,
guys,
you
real
said
quick.
David Pierce trailer. Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Real quick, guys, from a really high level, I think what we're all five of us are agreeing upon that is that we need to see a early version. It sounds like Alex is stepping up to the plate, saying he can create that, and then from there we add in all our creative whatever. Like, okay, we need to add in a bell and a like button. Who can do that? Like, do we like the emblem? Where should it be? Like, we need to nitpick over all this shit at the beginning, so we agree upon our vision and how important things are. Once you've agreed there, then that's when we can start editing the other videos or somebody and then release it all. Is that what I'm hearing? Is everybody in agreement?
What I just want to make one final statement on this topic before we move on. What I'm going to do is essentially upload a rough draft, and then you guys can tear it a new asshole. If you think it needs a little bit of fixing here or a little bit of polishing here, we can add that on later. But the important thing is we get something out there so that we have something to criticize and then.
Well, then I love it. I think
absolutely.
you're stepping up to the plate.
Wait. We're not going public. We're not going to go public until.
No, it'll be unlisted.
Unlisted
Okay.
video.
Okay.
Right.
So
we all
let me-
rip it in
let
your
me
ass.
Yeah. Well, so what's his name? Alex. Sorry. So you said David Pierce trailer tonight. You said.
Yeah, work on it right after this podcast. You guys want me to like leave it and start
Before we should put anything
No, don't
public,
leave.
before we put anything public, we need to have a database of like certain ones that we can just literally put that we don't have. So what I'm wanting to do is we need to have at least like say 2 videos a week or 3 videos a week. How many videos a week can we like do? You think?
Max,
We're gonna start.
Earlier today, the four of us agreed that every 2 days is what the SEO is optimized for. Is that what we all agreed
Yeah,
upon?
and then from then on,
Okay, so
if we don't have
what we
enough,
should do is
once a week.
we should only do 2 a week at first, like
But it
max.
it should, and we all agree though that the 2 a week it should be the same day and the same each of those times.
But
So-
no. Okay, so let me finish what I'm saying. So we should only do 2 a week at first, okay? And we were gonna work our way up to every other day. But until because I need to check. We all need to check if we're all gonna be on board or not. If people are slacking, then we are not gonna do every other day because then we're gonna screw everything up. So let's start a little small. I mean, this isn't small. 2 a week
I need
is a
to
lot.
look.
Okay,
So
like
what I'm gonna do when I get to work is I'm gonna look at the analytics of where the audience of life extension people watch. Is it United States? Is it Europe? I don't know.
Max, I can already tell you it's mainly United States and Europe, and it's white guys in their 30s and 40s. Like Alex,
Bobby, go to. Sorry, Max.
Okay.
Go to.
Then that's then
for
you-
English speaking, that is Max. I wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Back.
So that data right there should focus on when we upload consistently at other times. So like right when they get off work, a good time that is best fit for them.
Hey guys, I got a cool idea. Check this out.
But real quick before we move on, I want to hear Alex and Rowan's in particular's opinion about this, because that's what my data on my YouTube channel says. What do you guys think from your?
When you search, go to Google Trends and search transhumanism, life extensionism. Fun thing is a lot of these ideas, which states in particular they hit. I noticed huge hits in California, Washington, and Utah out of all the states. So I think we should upload in Pacific time, rather than Western time. This is crazy because most of the United States it lives on the eastern half. So I think like 70% of the U.S. population lives in Eastern time. But we do want to do Pacific time because the people who like our content live in the Pacific for some reason, and Mountain time, I guess, for the Utah. But
hey guys, I got a cool idea. I can literally edit stuff and like intros or extras with all of us live and stream it live at the same time, and just tell me what to do and I'll just do it real time. I'm really fast. I could do it.
Okay. You should have like
If you want, you can go ahead and work on that, Rowan. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like you guys, if you looked at the live stream right now, you'll literally see my Adobe Premiere program. It's open and I can like start dragging stuff and making stuff, right? And then that way you could see how to do it. You could literally see in real time like how to actually video edit and stuff.
I have a program at work that I can do a blog post for our channel, and it will go to every life extension blog on the internet. So it automatically just crawls all the web for the certain blog post about life extension, or mentions life extension anywhere within the blog, and then it will automatically post there. And that's what I'll end up doing. But I want to know how many, like, are we going to be doing 2 to 3 videos a week? Are we doing 2 videos a week to start out? That's what we agreed on?
Yes, and if
we're going to start with 2
then we do 1 a week.
So
if we can do this, we're going to start with 2 for like maybe a month, right? And after a month, then we're going to talk to each other and be like, okay, did we do well enough? Are we capable of doing 3? And then if we are capable of doing 3, then we can do 3. How's that?
Okay. Bobby, you mean 2 videos a week? Is that what you mean? For
2 weeks for just a month, and then we'll talk to each other and be like, okay, do you think? Are we working enough? Are we pulling each other's weight enough to be able to do 3 a week?
One quick issue with that. We already have like 10 videos, so we already have those stockpiled. So it won't be the best example, you know what I mean, of the future after that.
What do you mean?
But that's good. So we have 10 videos to say, hey, oh shoot, we need to upload 2 videos this week, and we don't have a video.
My point is, it's not really good or bad. It's just a fact. So we have to consider that into our calculations that we already have 10 interviews done, and we're starting from that. And so we can't necessarily judge that that's going to be how it always is the next month. You know what I mean? So in other words, if we can do 2 videos, I think we should just try and do it as fast as we can and see how we work, see how long it takes us to edit, to work as a team, to do all the social media promotion. Like, we got to test this and see how it really goes and what we're all comfortable with doing.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't you rather launch really well versus like just doing tests, like trial and error? Because
yes, I do want to launch.
If you guys want to like be,
let me answer
stop.
Really well.
What's Brent saying?
So actually, stop. Okay, so what we need to do is literally just start. Like often, like if you spend too much time talking about it, you'll never do it. So I think Rowan, we should end the live stream right now, and then I'll go start. Because
we're not taking too much time talking now.
Or I'm editing as if you look at the live stream, you can see my edits.
Okay, yeah. So
very good.
Closing thoughts before we go offline.
What's up?
Closing thoughts before we go offline, so I can go start.
Well, next we have to agree upon next steps. You always end a meeting agreeing upon next steps, right? So that's really important for like productive business meetings. So what I've heard.
So how about we each say one thing for like homework that we can all do for in the meantime?
Wait. Why are we ending the meeting? What's up with that? What's going on?
We're ending the live stream. We're not ending the meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
If Rowan wants to keep live streaming, we can do that. Like, the show is turning into how to build a YouTube channel. Does anybody want to?
Dude, I like that. That's cool, dude. People see behind the studios. This is like people pay for this kind of stuff, dude. I gotta get going.
How to make videos.
Actually start.
So my personal thing that I want from you guys
videos live.
Okay, so like
specifically, all of you. Alex, in
Stop.
particular,
This-
Rowan,
The
Brent.
stream is called The stream is called like AI, so we have to kind of change topics. We have to start a new stream. So, final thoughts on
Okay.
AI specifically.
Okay.
Final thoughts on AI. I hope Peter Voss gets way more funding and awareness, and I feel like we just did the best we could for our part with our skills to help him out, and I want to help him out more.
Okay.
I think there ain't no brakes on this crazy train, but we can jump off and find a new train, whatever. Related to the title of the video, you guys can't see it, but Rowan, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is I think we should promote the progress of AI as fast as possible. So I'm not with, Elon Musk's super regulations. I think we should promote it as fast as possible so that it hopefully can help us live forever. And the worst that can happen is that it traps us all inside of a matrix and it starts judging us and testing us. That's not so bad, right?
Sure. All right. May you live forever. Death to the Reaper.
So maybe we all end up living forever inside of a matrix, or maybe we already have.
Yes.
We are living.
And maybe we're already trapped and can't actually get out of the matrix,
Yeah.
and it's futile. But we're gonna That's why my saying. I love Bill Andrews. He says, "Cure aging or die trying," and I love it. We're gonna cure aging or die trying.
That's a good
Hey.
thing to end on. May you live forever or die
1996.
trying.
But
Conquered,
remember what Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try.
Do or do not. There is no
Well, nobody thought a computer can beat the best chess player in all of chess in 1996. That was proven wrong. Beat Kasparov in 1996. Nobody thought a computer could beat the best Jeopardy player, Ken Jennings, but that was proven wrong. Now, let's see if a computer can conquer aging. I feel that will prove everybody wrong.
Nobody thought a computer could beat the best Go player until 2018 when Google's DeepMind did it. And guess what? Peter Voss isn't impressed by none of that. He says it's just
Still an ANI.
no big
Narrow
deal.
Intelligence.
Yeah, cockroach, we need to create AGI to cure aging. Let's think bigger, people. Jump on the train. This is where we're rolling.
All right.
All right. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.